Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the newest episode of the Theater Enthusiast podcast. I'm so delighted to welcome our next guest, currently on tour in Parade as Hugh Dorsey. Also, just going to throw it out there, also a Drama Desk nominee. I mean, should we like amp that up? Is that said enough when people talk about you?
It's never said,
Well,
and it needs to
you're
be said at some point. So I appreciate this.
welcome. Kind of like scream it from the back if anybody wants to. Like, if anybody's like seeing Parade on tour, be like, oh, yeah, that guy was nominated for a Drama Desk Award.
That's right. I
And
mean,
it's
I need to hear it. I need like a little placard, like the
did they
little
not?
Disney tag, little Disney name tags that just says
Well,
like Drama Desk nominee.
well, when you go to Disney, when you said you, let's not like share when you're going, just in case there's some like Andrew.
That's a good point.
Oh, I
Yes,
should also
yes.
say Andrew Samonsky is here.
Yeah, my name. It's not that
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
No, it is important. Me attempting to say your character's name in Lempicka might be a different challenge, but
I want to hear you try. You want to go
oh,
for it?
I phonetically wrote it out.
Okay.
I recorded
I,
it last night. I've listened to it and I'm going to butcher it, but I know I have it. It's Tadeusz.
wow, you didn't. That was perfect.
Thank you. It's literally written out as today you dash sh. So
Well, the funny thing is, it was Tamara de Lempicka and Tadeusz. So we had Tadeusz, and Tamara, like today and tomorrow. So that's how we remember it. So,
I think of it as today for you, tomorrow for me from Rent.
oh,
Yeah.
oh, wow. That's God. How did we not think of that one? That's great. That's
Sometimes
why you're a theater podcaster. And,
you know.
you know,
Yeah. Also, getting back to Disney, I totally forgot why we were talking about it. All right, it's fine. Andrew Samonsky is here. Welcome. What did
hello. Yay. So
you
good to be here. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Course. I was thinking because in my research, because I deep dive when I research everyone. I YouTube,
Uh,
I do everything. I was like, this man needs to do audiobooks. Have you ever thought of doing that? Because your voice is so rich and deep.
I think. Well, I've had a couple of people say that to me. My wife, Kate, actually has done a lot of audiobooks, but she does like the teen audiobooks because her voice is just a little higher than mine. Um, no, thanks. I actually have never done it. I know it's kind of like it's hard work.
Yeah.
You're just sitting there reading a book flawlessly. Um, maybe it's in my future as I mature and the voice rounds out even more. Who knows? Maybe I'll be doing like Chevy commercials at some point in my life. So
Good.
not a bad gig.
Yeah. Or you can just like start doing, when you said Chevy, I thought you were about to say Shakespeare. So I'm like, do Shakespeare audio too. Why not?
Oh, sure. No, no. It's funny. I took a Shakespeare class in college and I fell in love with like an English class, not an acting class. And we would listen to the old BBC tapes, like audio tapes, cassette tapes of or whoever, Derek Jacobi and Ian McKellen playing the great roles. And it was the time of my life. I think we went through like 10 Shakespeare plays and just I listened to them all on audio with our friends and we just loved it. And there's something really lovely like about audiobooks and my son actually loves like listening to audiobooks now and or a podcast. Like I'm obsessed with podcasts. I mean, just I hate to say I almost barely listen to music anymore because I listen to so many podcasts. So to be on a podcast is lovely. So thank you.
Awesome. So when we're done recording and I release this episode, are you just going to listen to this one? Just like
Just to myself, yeah. Yeah.
gonna listen to
Just
the sound of
revel
my
in
own
my own
voice for a
voice.
little bit. I mean, again, I don't know how long we're going to be talking for, but however long it's going to go, you're going to take like a nice jog somewhere, just listen to the sound of your own voice.
Oh God, can you imagine? That's so terrible. But maybe someone else will, and if that's
Yeah.
pleasing to them, I'm happy. Maybe they'll just use it to fall asleep too, because I do that too. I have my special podcasts that I don't really care about, but they're enough to like put me to sleep at night.
Yeah.
So
I get that. I
this
have,
is not one of them.
hopefully not. No.
No way.
It could just be my voice that people are like, all right, now it's time for bed. But no, I understand that. I have like some ASMR people I follow on Instagram. So if I'm like up in bed and I can't fall asleep, I'll just flick on one of their videos and just,
Yeah, got to turn the brain off, you know?
yeah. Like, ironically, looking at your phone is not ideal, but
No, no. That's why it's got to be the podcast where you just put it away and just listen and hopefully fall asleep.
Yeah. Well, now that we've talked about wanting to sleep, where do you sleep?
Where am I from?
Yeah.
A sleepy little town. No,
Little
I'm
town.
from a coastal town and about an hour north of Los Angeles in Ventura, California. Yeah, born and raised, same house, still there. And yeah, it was a lovely, lovely place to grow up. And uh, yeah, I mean, I spent my whole life there in the same house.
Mhm.
And then I went to undergrad at Cal State Northridge in the Valley in LA, and then I went to grad school at UC Irvine down south of LA. So I mean, I was a California kid through and through until I graduated grad school and immediately moved to New York. So I was basically in California the whole time until then.
So, a fun fact that I love about your time at your master's program was you did Victor Victoria with Jen Colella.
I did, yeah.
I want to talk about that because nobody ever talks about Victor Victoria.
Right?
I love Victor Victoria. I grew up watching the movie. I almost aged myself, but I was 8 years old when it was on Broadway, and my dad took my sister and I and my stepmom, and we saw Julie Andrews on Broadway doing Victor Victoria.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
never done, and nobody ever talks about it.
It's funny, when I was on the Come From Away tour a handful of years ago, we would do a movie night and we watched Victor Victoria again, and it's an exceptional movie.
Yes.
It's so funny, it's so good. And the musical's really fun too. Yeah, like Jen and I played opposite each other. She was Victor Victoria and I was King
King
and
Marchand.
King Marchand. And what's so funny is he he doesn't really have a song. He has something called the King's Rap. And I mean, listen, it is not a rap, and I definitely am no Lin-Manuel Miranda, but it's like this speaky song. It's like, it's a trick and a trap. I'm not ready to take the rap on a crime I didn't do. It's that kind of song. And
That was excellent rapping, by the way. So, and is
I didn't feel confident about it, but it's been many years. But yeah, Jen and I played opposite each other. We overlapped for 2 years at Irvine, and you know, as everyone knows, she's just the most positive, wonderful, supportive cheerleader of a person in this world, and I'm so happy to see her have so much success over the last few years. She's so deserving. So yeah.
I was lucky enough to work with her during the pandemic, and she was just
Oh
awesome.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, everybody loves her. So as they should. And she loves everybody back. I mean, I think that's why she's so great. Is She's just so supportive of everyone else. Yeah.
So, was it undergraduate or graduate school where Younger Than Springtime was introduced to you? Because I know that
Yeah,
you studied opera first, because this is like already out there in the world that people know this, but you studied opera and
right.
there were some acting professors who directed the operas. So you were getting slowly more introduced to acting, the drama department. And
Hmm.
I can't remember the story of when this song came to you, if you can, because well, it's going to come
Yeah.
into play a little later as well.
Okay. Yeah. It was grad school. In undergrad, as you said, I was doing opera and I initially started as almost a bass baritone. And you've talked about my dulcet tones, but truth was, I got to grad school, and the undergraduate musical theater teacher who also taught some voice lessons, Marana Delaney, who is still my voice teacher today, because I credit her with making my career. I took a voice lesson with her just on a whim, just to see whatever. And she's goes, I think you're a tenor. And I thought she was crazy. I absolutely thought she was crazy. Um, I could barely hit like an F at the time, which if you're like a baritone, that's a high note for an opera for a baritone at least. And and over the next 3 years, for some reason I just for some reason I believed her or I trusted her. And I also knew that if I could get some high notes, it would only help my career. So yeah, slowly but surely, we just like stretched out my voice, she asked me to find some singers that I could emulate in a sense. And I listened to a lot of Billy Joel, and he was kind of another one of my teachers in so many ways. And and yes, the song that we used mostly was Younger Than Springtime. And I absolutely hated that song because it was so hard. And it had these long legato high G's at the end, and they were just terrifying and wobbly. And oh, they did not sound good. And, and slowly but surely it got a little easier and a little easier and a little easier. And I mean, the crazy part about that story, of course, is that whatever it was, 3 years later, 4 years later, I'm singing at 8 shows a week on Broadway opposite Kelly O'Hara and Tony winner Paolo Jot, and yeah, and it was easy at that point. Um, uh, yeah, I'm gonna say a story that I feel like I probably shouldn't say, but it's obvious. Matt Morrison, who I love, preceded me and was amazing in the role, and I learned so much from him, and I understudied him initially. He did it a half step down from the original key, which a lot of people do. Like, there's no judgment in that. I mean, keys are always being changed wherever they sit best in a voice. And but for me, that part of the story was I went on for the first time in previews with zero rehearsal. And I found out that morning on a two-show day, Matt had been getting sick, and I was like, ugh, am I gonna have to go on? Like, I haven't even been rehearsed in this thing. And sure enough, the next morning, 10 a.m., I get the call. I get to the theater. I go to the gym first, of course, because Cable, of course, has to sing with his shirt off. Good Lord, that was so long ago. But I don't do that anymore. But
Well,
um,
I mean, Bridges.
well, yes, well, that was still 9 years ago, so there's been some years that have passed.
Uh,
I don't know if casting will see me that way anymore. But or what that role would be, the shirtless dad in Mamma Mia, maybe. But no, I get to the theater and we kind of walk through the show in the rehearsal room downstairs, and we're trying on the costumes and practicing the quick changes, and before I know it, the overture has started, and oh, I have to say, before the overture started, like Ted Sperling, our MD, like races into the room and is like, "Hey, like we can do it in the original key, right? Okay." And I was like, yeah, okay." And so he's like, "Great." And so he switched out the music for my performances to do it a half step up in the original key, and that's how I ended up doing it when I took over the role. But nothing against Matt again at all. It was just for me knowing how hard that song was to then to then have the confidence of our music director just come and be like, "You'll do it in the original key, right? Because like you can." And I was like, "Okay," and I did, and it was okay. So it was a little triumph for me for sure in my career. Yeah.
like she knew.
Yeah, that is a story I haven't talked actually said that part about the key change, but yeah, it felt good, to do that.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that story. I love insider info like that. It's what I strive on. It's what
Yeah.
I love to. It's great. So what was it? My favorite Broadway theater is actually the Vivian Beaumont. And I
Yes.
just realized I do have a signed South Pacific poster, and I think you're on it.
Oh wow, yeah.
I'm not going to fish it out right now, maybe later, but
No, no, no.
yeah, it's hidden.
It's just audio. This is audio.
Yeah,
So
well, I can show you. Nobody has to
what
know
right.
what's going on. I say like what's around me in my apartment. People don't see it, but they hear it.
Right. You could say anything, really.
Yeah. I mean, what do you want to say? What's on your wall? Will they know it's
Oh
actually
my
the
gosh. It's a signed poster of oh gosh. I was gonna date myself and say Pearl Jam because that was like my band growing up, but Eddie Vedder was my first kind of voice god of my life. I
Does
really
that
wanted to be Eddie Vedder in Pearl
that come
Jam.
back to the Skinny Rogers of high school?
Oh my gosh, like you know so much about me, it's scary. But but yeah, you were saying the Vivian Beaumont, and it's so it. I think it's the biggest Broadway stage.
I think so
Uh,
too. When I was, not to age myself, I like how how many times are you and I going to say that on this podcast? Like, not to age ourselves. Um, but when I was a
but we will constantly age ourselves.
consistently, I do it all the time. Somebody the other
Yeah,
day is like, "You're this age range, right?" I was like, "Thank you for thinking I'm so young. I'm not
right. That's
in
right.
this
I
your eyes,
know.
you guys." No, so freshman year of college, I was taking some sort of like tech, like workshop type class, like what
Hmm.
and our professor brought us backstage at the Vivian Beaumont when Light in the Piazza was on.
Mm,
Guy was telling us,
beautiful.
yeah, how long the stage goes back. And I remember him saying something about their like they made pools for the stage for like 12th night that they had there.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a pretty far back stage.
No, it really is. I mean, we fit half of a more than half, like three-quarters of a life-size World War II plane on stage in South Pacific. And it's funny when we were Seabees, our entrance was from the very back of the stage over this sand dune that
Mhm.
they had created to running to the front of the stage to start, Bloody Mary with all the Seabees. And it was a jog. I mean, it was not like usually in these Broadway stages, you walk out and you're just there you are, and like there's no wing space. There's very little space. It's very unglamorous actually backstage at most Broadway houses, but the Beaumont is the exact opposite. The backstage is beautiful. The wing space is enormous. The stage itself is enormous. It feels a lot like a touring house, honestly. And the dressing rooms themselves are really nice. They all have like heated toilet seats and are
And
very
back in the day, they
comfortable.
had heated toilet seats.
Oh yeah, they've had them for 17 years at least, because that's when South
Oh,
Pacific was. Yeah.
yeah. Wow, talking about age. I saw South Pacific so many times. I actually was at the final performance when it like torrential downpoured and the dress I was wearing was wet, so I was in the bathroom and like squeezing out my dress into the toilet.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah.
How do I not remember the rain on that day? Well, it
Well,
was
I
a
mean,
sad
'cause
day.
we were, I don't know what time you got to the theater, but like walking to the theater was,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it was a sad day. It was a rainy, sad day for the closing of South Pacific. And then
Yeah.
we had our party on the roof of the um oh, what is that hotel? The one right there above PJ Clark's. Anyway, it was like a rooftop party. And I mean, the rain must have cleared because or a little bit because it would end up being a nice party.
I
So
can't remember. I want to say Empire, but I feel like I'm wrong.
yeah, the Empire
Yeah.
Hotel.
Or
Yeah.
as people who watch Gossip Girl know, it's the hotel that Chuck Bass owns.
Gosh, see, I don't know that reference, but
I have younger siblings, so that's why I know this.
again, I've aged myself by not knowing a reference. Yeah.
Okay. Should I think of another reference, see if you know it?
Yeah,
Well,
like the Jetsons or something.
I watched the Jetsons growing up. If
Dude, me too.
yeah, yeah, Pebbles and Bam Bam. I remember their wedding episode.
I was much more a Jetsons fan than a Flintstones fan. So,
Yeah. I think I was a mix of both. I also like Nick at Night when it was like I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched.
hmm.
Hmm.
I mean, I Love Lucy. Just
Yeah,
it was always on some channel.
yeah. Now it's just Friends and The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, which I have not watched, oddly. I watched Friends, but not Big Bang. Um, Man, we just weave in and out of these topics, don't we? It's lovely.
I told you it happened. Let's get back, and I'm very good at being like, let's get back on topic, shall we?
Okay, sure, sure, sure.
Before South Pacific hit, you did On the Record, Disney's On the Record tour.
Hmm.
What was that? Was that like your first professional gig outside of college?
It was not my first professional gig. It was like my first big gig.
Mhm.
I mean, I came to New York right after grad school, and my first job was a theater works tour. Many actors are familiar with the children's kind of tours of theater works,
Mhm.
and we were in two cargo vans. We traveled across the country and back for 2.5 months, and it was the time of my life. Honestly, it was my first gig, and I made money, and I even saved a little money and made people who are still some of my closest friends today. Um, and then like another regional gig or two, and then I got Disney's On the Record, and it was this national tour, and opposite Ashley Brown and Brian Sutherland and Emily Skinner, who was then replaced by Caitlin Hopkins, and an ensemble of Andy Carl. I mean, in our ensemble was Andy Carl. Um, it was a great cast. It was this kind of jukebox musical that didn't even have dialogue. We didn't even have a book writer. We had someone called a scenarist because they would just kind of they wrote scenarios for the songs and these like um like what we're playing in the songs, the subtext of each song, and the plot was we were making the ultimate Disney album. I mean, what a plot. And but it was a blast. And that album is excellent. David Chase did all these incredible mashups of I think 66 different Disney songs over the course of the night. And I had a blast. I mean, I made some good money. I again traveled the country, made amazing friends, sang Disney songs, which I'm sure we'll get to. I love Disney music and Disney itself, and uh, it was wonderful. And it was my first great gig. And then come back with a little chunk of change to hopefully, not have to wait tables for a little bit and find the next gig. So I felt very lucky and I really loved it. And um, but yeah, I think you can still find that album. I think it's out on Spotify and Apple Music. It was great. You know, Disney was Disney was very good to us, honestly. So that was the first big gig where I think kind of gave me some confidence to be like, oh, I think I can be here. I think I deserve to be here, and that's always a nice feeling. So, yeah.
I'm just curious to know because you and your wife have both worked for Disney. So like when you go to Disney, do you guys just get like the VIP treatment? Or you guys like no photos, please?
I am a mostly theater actor, so no one really knows who I am. But my wife, Kate Reinders of what, 8, 9 Broadway shows and High School Musical, the musical, the series, Miss Jen, the drama teacher. Yeah, she'll get recognized for sure. Yeah, when she was doing the show for 4 seasons, she they do give you like a VIP guide to use at the parks, which is amazing. Uh, Not terribly affordable when it's otherwise, but we did it a handful of times, and it's a pretty special experience for sure. We bring our friends along, and you get special seating for the fireworks or whatever you want, and cut the lines and all that stuff. No, you feel pretty fancy, and yeah, and we even went with some of the other kids from High School Musical a couple times, and yeah, and so people stop and want to say hello, and that's fun. It's Kate deserved it. She's worked so hard, and she's the nicest, most fun person you will honestly ever meet in your life. I mean, everyone likes her more than me, which is fine. I understand. So yeah, we did get some perks out of it, but I mean, everyone tells us too, like you need to write a Disney, like have a Disney show or concert or something. And we actually did put one together a couple of years ago for like a Valentine's Day benefit at my hometown theater. And we kind of told the story of our relationship through Disney songs. And so I think we'd love to maybe, we're just lazy and we haven't really like pitched it to anyone, but maybe we'll pitch it to someone at Disney and do it somewhere at some point. It's actually a very fun show, and we can get into all of that about our relationship or whatever, but and Disney and all the Disney connections. But yeah, that as far as on the record, it was a blast and started off my career.
So how did South Pacific come into your life? Which was my introduction to you, I will say.
Yeah. I was I had auditioned for it at some point. I think they took 9 months to audition that show. And so I had gone in for an initial audition, and then at some point, I went to Denver to do South Pacific. Not to do South Pacific, to do White Christmas. And it was during like the holiday season, of course. And I got a call back for South Pacific to cover cable and be in the ensemble. And it was this whole rigmarole. Uh, at the Denver Center where I was doing White Christmas, if I could get the time off to go to the audition, and it was a little more. They gave me a little more trouble than I had appreciated, but they gave me like half the day off to fly to. I flew in the night before to New York. And I could do the morning audition in New York for South Pacific, and then I had to be back for the late afternoon rehearsal in Denver, and they wouldn't give me the whole day off. So I stay with my friends the night before in New York. I go to the 10 a.m. audition and I do my material, and I literally walk out of the room and I'm grabbing my bags to head straight to the airport back to my rehearsal in Denver. And the moderator comes up to me. He's like, "Okay, Andrew, great. They really liked you. They'd love to have you stick around for the dance call later this afternoon." And I just kind of laughed and I was like, "Ha ha ha!" Like funny jokes, like thinking he knew I had to leave for the airport. And he's like, "What?" I was like, "Oh, I have to go to the airport right now. I can't stay, unfortunately." And he's like, "Oh, well, okay, well, all right, well, we'll see you later." And I thought, "Oh my God, are you kidding me?" Like, well, there goes that show. I thought, well, I guess I blew it because I can't stick around. And luckily, I had worked with Chris Catelli on Tick Tick Boom in LA, who was choreographing South Pacific. And I just emailed him or texted him or something. I was like, "Hey, man, I'm so sorry. I can't stick around. I have to be back for this rehearsal." And he said, "No problem, Andrew. Like, don't worry about it. Like, I know what you can do." And thank goodness, because whatever it was, a month later, I wake up to these texts from friends going, "Oh, my friend Christian got an offer from South Pacific. Have you heard anything? Hey, my buddy Jensen got an offer. Have you heard anything? Oh, my friend, Mike got an offer." And I just look at my phone and I have no offers. I have no calls from my agent, no emails. And so I call my agent and oh no, I don't. I'm just waiting. And so I go to rehearsal. People at rehearsal come up to me like, "Oh, my friend, this and that got an offer. Heard something. Have you heard anything?" I've heard nothing. Half the rehearsal goes by. I've heard nothing. Finally, I can't take it anymore. And I call my agents and I say, "Hey, just checking to see if you've heard anything about South Pacific. Like, I guess, offers going out. And, I figured you'd called me if you heard anything." And they said, "No, Andrew, we've heard something." And I said, "You have?" He's like, "Uh-huh. Like, you're going to be getting an offer." And I was like, "Why didn't you fucking call me?" And you said I could curse, so I cursed. And that is what I said. And they said, "Well, we've gotten in trouble in the past because for whatever reason, I don't know why theater Broadway does this, but there's the unofficial call before the official call from casting. So the unofficial call comes in saying you're gonna get an official call, and my agents have gotten an unofficial call and notified their client only to find out that casting had made a mistake and then had to go back to their client and be like, "Sorry, you actually didn't get the part." So they like to wait for the official call before they contact their clients. And that's why they hadn't called me, which I guess is fair, but clearly all the other agents call their clients when the unofficial call comes in. And so I found out I got it, and it was my first Broadway show, and I was beside myself, um, and off I went to New York after that, after White Christmas, and started a few weeks after that in January of 2008. And I'd never understudied before, never been in a Broadway show before. The whole rehearsal process was incredible. I mean, I could talk about the South Pacific experience for days because it was extraordinary.
You know,
you know, for
again,
so
you're
many
talking
reasons.
about making this into like a, a podcast series called the Samonsky series. So please, if you want to, I also love South Pacific. So, and I loved that production. So I'm all ears about it.
Yeah, it was really special, and I give a lot of I mean I give most of the credit to our director Bart Scher, who you know is much lauded director as he should be, and this was you know he had done Light in the Piazza, which was obviously, you know, hailed as a big hit and great show, beautiful show, and I loved Light in the Piazza. But then South Pacific is what like really solidified him as this like behemoth like Broadway director and won the Tony and all that stuff. And he was extraordinary. It was a cast of 30, which is well, it's a cast of 40. It was an orchestra of 30. Both things are unheard of these days. I mean, the costs are just way too high to do anything like that again. So to have a cast of 40 and an orchestra of 30, and in the rehearsal room have this massive group of people and how to manage them, Bart was brilliant. And part of what he did, I think, very deftly was he would kind of form these little cliques, you know, and all the CBs would kind of hang together, and then the nurses would kind of hang together separately, like in another room, and and the leads, well, you know, were obviously doing their thing, and even within the CBs, you know, the black CBs, Bart would kind of like like make sure they were not hanging out with the white CBs all the time during the rehearsal process at times, not in like a weird way, just like, no, you guys go over there, like you know, he placed them over there for some scene or whatever. And because of all that, like these very clear clicks like started formulating, which is what exactly would have happened on a Navy base, a CB base in during World War II. And of course, the segregation, and then you know, the male-female divide, and and all these groups got really tight, and the camaraderie of those little groups like really blossomed, and we would do these like clowning days where we would just like be silly and do all these bizarre exercises and getting all the CBs to just be ridiculous, and it just really developed like a fraternity among us. And I know the nurses did something similar, and and just the hierarchy of like the captain and lieutenants, like we you know we he kept kind of dividing us to make sure the hierarchy in the of the roles was clear, of the groups was clear, and then he brought in, of course, some historians, some actual Navy guys from World War II and a Marine from World War II, and seeing the difference between the Marine and the Navy guys was fascinating, and what that kind of distinctive divide between the two was. All these all of these little things that he, you know, integrated into the cast came alive on the stage. And you know, we were not just like a like some just bland group of CBs. Like we were all just ourselves and guys on that stage, individuals. And it was, you know, and because like a chorus can get very like you're all doing the same tap steps and you're like, you know, you're smiling and stuff. I mean, and South Pacific's not that kind of show, of course, but there was a very real, authentic aesthetic to that he was creating in that show, and I think it showed on stage, and he of course made contemporized a lot of the show as well, made it feel very cinematic. I thought, even though that stage is enormous, it was like the way he would focus the scenes or this beautiful like landscape in the back of the stage. It felt like you were almost watching a movie alive, that and little close-ups or you know, pan back to the picture of the islands or whatever. It was just a very, and for that to be my broad first for that to be my Broadway debut, and then go on to win 7 Tony Awards and run for 2.5 years at Lincoln Center, like I think the jewel of New York City, that whole area, and go to work every day. I mean, I literally I had a moment, I had many moments where I just would take my bow and go like, well, it's all downhill from here. It can't get much better than this. And everyone was lovely in that cast. I mean, Kelly O'Hara is just the best person you'll ever want to meet and work with on and off stage. And and Danny Burstein is the biggest mensch you'll ever meet. And I mean, it was just hard to top. And it was a real fraternity. Those guys, we just had our 17-year anniversary of it, and Lincoln Center celebrated their 50th anniversary by doing a concert with the entire original revival cast, and everybody except I think two of us came back for it, and it was like a family reunion. It was amazing, and I mean, we rehearsed for a week, and all we did was just laugh and reminisce and have a great time, and uh, it was a very, very special New York experience. That I mean, other shows have been fulfilling, maybe more fulfilling in different ways, but that one has been hard to top. Um, and I got a million other stories about it too, but that's like the general overview of that experience. Yeah.
Well, if you ever want to come on and do like an episode of just South Pacific,
Yeah.
I would just literally sit here and just listen to all of it. Because like I said, I love South Pacific. I saw that production so many times. I watched the PBS broadcast of it. It killed me that I could not go to the reunion concert because it was
Oh yeah.
so damn expensive.
Yeah, no, it was a fundraiser of sorts,
Yeah.
so tickets were out of sight.
Even as a Lincoln Center member, I was like, nope, too expensive. Can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
But
every song in that show is a classic.
Mhm.
It's wild. I mean, yeah, I mean you would hear the audience singing along sometimes, which is like, come on, like let's not sing along to South Pacific. It's not Mamma Mia. Like it's it's a serious show, so you really shouldn't be hearing the audience sing along. But those songs, they're in your bones, and so you can't really fault them, but it was but every single song from that show, it's wild.
Yeah. What was the phone call or the info? What was it like when you found out, or how did you find out that you were replacing Matthew Morrison?
Yeah, I've told this story before too, so forgive me if you've heard this one, but
I don't remember it, so if I have heard it, so
yeah, I was just, I was in the ensemble as a CB, and all the leads and the nurses had the fancy dressing rooms upstairs. And just because our cast was so big, all the CBs had to be put downstairs into this old, like general dressing room, which was fine because again, we were such a fraternity and it
but hold on, did
smelled
you
bad, and
guys have heated seats?
we had we barely had seats at all.
Okay,
So
great. Heated toilets, that's what I meant.
no, we had heated discussions, but not
You're
heated
even
toilet
better.
seats. Yeah, heated sports discussions. Um, and we had like a dart board, and even at some point one of the guys brought in their video game system and a TV, and I mean it was a fraternity in that room. But so I'm sitting there one day and I'm reading the script of an audition, this TV audition, and someone asked me, Andrew, what are you reading? I was like, it's this new, I have an audition for this new show called Glee. And for whatever reason, Matt Morrison is in our room because he rarely was, because he had his fancy dressing room upstairs, of course. But he hears me and he like perks up. He's like, oh yeah, I think I'm supposed to audition for that too. I said, well, Matt, you really should. I think it's pretty good. He's like, okay, yeah, yeah. And so a couple days later, I show up at the audition, and literally 5 seconds later, Matt walks in to the room. And I'm like, hey, Matt, yeah. And he comes up to me in a panic. He says, Andrew, oh my gosh, I totally forgot that I have to sing something for this audition. Do you think I could look through your book of music? And I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, man. Like, what could you sing? And he's like, well, sometimes I do On the Street Where You Live from My Fair Lady. I was like, well, actually, I have that in my book. He's like, oh, can I borrow it? I'm like, yeah, sure, sure. So, of course, long story short, he goes on to book the thing, and of course, I don't for the same role. Of course, we were going in for, and so he leaves South Pacific for 5 weeks to go shoot the pilot, and they give me all 5 weeks to as for his role, which in itself was amazing. My first Broadway show and playing opposite Kelly O'Hara, all the things I've said. So he comes back, and after the 5 weeks, and we find out that that Glee is picked up, and he's going to finish out his contract in another month or two and go and leave and go do Glee. And so at that point, they do call me. I got the call from my agent when that was figured out that they were going to offer me the role permanently, and that was really exciting. And yeah, I mean, it was like a fist pump moment. I mean, I remember where I was like on Broadway, like just south of the movie theater, like between like I think it's 68th and 67th or something right there, or 69th. Anyway, but I think I was like a Banana Republic at the time. Anyway,
I
the
know
things you remember.
exactly where you're talking about, and that Banana Republic does not exist anymore.
Oh no. Well,
Gap is still there though.
okay. Yeah. Um, but so that was very exciting. And as Matt's finishing out his run at South Pacific, I'm in the green room one day and just sitting there. Matt walks into the room and it's all been decided. He's leaving. I'm taking over. And I just look at him and I'm like, "Hey, Matt, I think you owe me 10% for helping you get that job in Glee." And he looks back at me and says, "Andrew, how about I just leave the show and you can have my part?" I said, "That's a deal." Um, and it's a lesson to always help your fellow actor because you never know um, what may come of it. And it was a huge coup again for my career and of course my bank account. And I did cable for a year and 9 months on Broadway, and I never took a vacation. I think I missed 10 shows in the 1,000 shows we did because I was like, why would I leave like my dream job? Like, why would I not just it was just the best job again. And and I got to do the PBS special, which was of course amazing. So so yeah, that's how I got the call and got like my first lead on Broadway. So yeah.
That's amazing. And I was going to say it now forever lives on the PBS broadcast.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's so special to have those things. I know, I know people aren't supposed to record in the theater and stuff, but as you get older, you do realize, oh, it would be nice to have a record of those performances. So
Well, I feel
I
like
get
it's,
torn.
I feel like, well, that time when it was on, it wasn't as common or it was more frowned upon, but the recordings, I mean,
Right,
people still don't like it, but it's more, I guess, accepted with the slang tutorials and everything.
right. I know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of fine with it, to be honest, at this point. I was like, who am I trying to hide from? Whatever. It's like
Oh, you come on,
something I
Hunchback
can
of
show my
Notre Dame.
kids, when I'm old.
Yeah, Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm glad it is, that was a special one too.
can't remember if it was the brunette or the blonde version of your character that's on there. But
The Lannister or the Stark version, as I would
that's
say.
right. Did you
Yeah.
have a preference to which one? You're more of a Starky or a Sandy?
Well, as far as Hunchback is concerned, I think I was just more of a Lannister
Mhm.
guy because dyeing my hair and having to like dye my beard every night just wasn't, and my eyebrows, I didn't really enjoy. And then trying to dye it back to blonde afterwards did not work out. It ended up being like this weird orange color for a while. So, um, yeah. So I think blonde was my preferred hue of my hair. But yeah.
Yeah, both house. So what happened? South Pacific closes. Did you finally take a mini vacation somewhere?
Yes, I did. I blew all of my because you get all of that vacation pay paid out to you at the end of the contract if you haven't used it. So it was a good chunk of change, and I blew it blew it all on a vacation to Greece, to the Greek Isles with my girlfriend at the time, which, looking back, you know, we're not together anymore. So, whatever. It was still a great trip, but
Listen, at the time
I do wish
it
those
was
I wish
fine.
those memories were with my wife now, but we've talked about going to Greece at some point, and I was like, yes, let's replace those memories with you, Kate. Because Greece is spectacular. It's just like because I'd asked everyone if you could go anywhere, what was your favorite vacation you ever took, and the majority answer was Greece, and that's why I went there, and it was spectacular. But so yeah, I did treat myself afterward. Um, so
Yeah. So once you greased out and you came back,
yes,
what happened next?
yeah, I I ended up doing a few original shows. It was really exciting. I think, South Pacific had like upped my profile, I guess, a little bit. And so I ended up going and doing Little Miss Sunshine
I want to talk to you about. So
yeah.
I can't remember the character Josh who was in the movie. Was it Frank's former boyfriend or is that a
Yes,
character? Okay. Because
exactly.
and then you eventually took over the role of Frank.
Yeah, it was another going on. I was playing Joshua, the boyfriend that in the movie Steve Carell meets in the gas station, runs into, and there was a whole song at the time, in the musical at that moment in the show. So I was doing that, and then Malcolm Getz got sick right as we opened and couldn't continue for the run. And I took over. I was understudying his part. And again, I took over with zero rehearsal. And I ended up doing the entire run as the Steve Carell part that Malcolm Getz had been doing. So I don't know what it was, like 3 or 4 weeks of that. And yeah, playing opposite Hunter Foster and Dick Latessa and Jennifer Laura Thompson and, like some of my heroes. And that was really cool again. And working with James Lapine, who directed it, and Bill Finn, rest in peace, just passed away recently. And um, again, working with like the the huge, huge names of Broadway that you pinch yourself moments. And I mean, I grew up. I mean, I remember Urinetown I saw that show in grad school, and it immediately became one of my all-time favorite shows. I just loved that show to death. And so to work with Hunter and Jennifer was amazing to me. So that was cool. It ended up not being like the best show. I think it's just hard to do a show about a road trip on a stage that's not moving anywhere.
Mhm.
Um, and they tried to rework it, and they got a different cast for off Broadway. No offense taken. It's just I think they just realized they needed to blow everything up to try to make it work. And frankly, I'm not sure it really did work even after that. But it was a cute it was a cute show. It worked really well, like in the room as a reading, but I think just the nature of it on stage was just hard to do. But it was a very fun experience. And then I went and did Tales of the City in at ACT in San Francisco, brand new musical with music by the Scissor Sisters and directed by Jason Moore, who had done Avenue Q, and that was cool. Like, and then after that, I went and did Queen of the Mist off Broadway, a brand new Michael John LaChiusa musical opposite Mary Testa, and that's where the Drama Desk nomination came into play.
The
But
Drama
it was
Desk nomination show.
yes,
But again, we need to keep when you go to Disney, again, not saying when, because
mhm,
I want the Samonsky fans
right.
to you guys down. You need to get one of those like, I'm here to celebrate this. She'd be like, I'm here to celebrate
No,
my drama desk
my
nomination
drama
from
desk
like
nomination from 20
20
years
some.
ago.
Yeah. Well, what, like 10, 15 years ago? I don't know math.
No, it was more, yeah, it was more like 15. Yeah.
Yeah, from like
Um,
15 years ago. Who's gonna know? Or you can just say my
no.
drama desk nomination. That's when people will think you're like, oh my God, VIP. Let's get a photo.
The coolest thing I think Kate ever got, because she would get these gifts from Disney every now and then while she was doing the show. And my favorite was she got her name tag. It says Kate R or something, and then it always says where they're from,
Yeah.
and it said I think we're Spring Lake, Michigan is where she grew up. And so she got one of those official Disney name tags. Um, she doesn't wear it when we go to the parks, just for those who wanted to know. But I thought that was a very cool gift. So yeah, it was a year of like doing new projects with like really incredible people that I admired so much, um and so that was a really exciting year after South Pacific. Yeah.
When you were talking about shows you were doing, I literally had a thought of like, oh, he's done a lot of movie to musical shows,
Mm,
like Somewhere in
yeah.
Time, Benny and
Hmm.
Joan. Um, well, I mean, Hunchback is a book and a movie, and the musical didn't
But it was
really
based
have a
on the
happy
movie
ending.
most. It was the
Yeah,
musical, Disney
yeah,
musical version of
yeah,
sorts. Yeah.
yeah. What else was there? Why can't I think of things? But you know what I
Trying to
mean.
think.
Yeah.
No, no. I mean, listen, that's what a lot of musicals are these days, of course. Um, but uh, but yeah, yeah, yeah. Somewhere in Time was I like, yeah. Where do I want to talk about all those? Like, yeah, again, it was cool because it was just a lot of new projects. Somewhere in Time was a brand new musical. Hunchback, I mean, they had done it in Germany, and obviously there was the movie, but it was the American premiere and a new director, and
Mhm.
Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz were in the room, and Scott Schwartz was directing, and Disney was putting their weight behind it, and that was very exciting. Um, Benny and June was a new musical. I've just been really blessed doing all these new projects, which is,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people say, what's the next role they want to do, and a lot of people always say like whatever the next new project is, to create something new, and it is really exciting to put your stamp on it. So so yeah, I do. I pinch myself all the time. I mean, I don't take it for granted. This business is hard, and I've been very, very fortunate. So yeah.
So I'm having such a brain fart. I was about to ask something and now it just like flew out of my head, so I apologize. So I'm I will say one of the two shows in my life that I really wish I've seen was Gypsy with Patti LuPone. And the other
Mm.
one, which I have absolutely no excuse for because I live around the corner from that theater, is The Mysteries of Edwin Drood.
Oh yeah.
So you were a replacement in that. How did that come into your life, that show? And I ask because people still talk about that production.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna get honest on this show. I was doing Scandalous at the time, which was, this kind of, it was we can say it was a flop. And it was Kathy Lee Gifford musical that Carolee Carmello was the lead of and was extraordinary in and got a Tony nomination for it, but the show just was not good. And it ran for 4 weeks, 4 weeks of previews and 4 weeks, and it's
And it's
you
sometimes
know
longer than there's that, what was that musical, Glory Days? And the Jazz, they
yeah,
called it Glory Day.
I
But,
know.
it had a run.
Listen,
It was
Broadway's hard, man. It's really hard.
my
And
biggest question to anybody is that poster on the wall at Joe Allen?
right. Well, I think Scandalous was for a while.
I haven't been there in a while, so next time I go, I'll keep an eye out.
Yeah, I don't know if it is anymore. It's probably been replaced with other ones since. But yeah, so I was doing Scandalous. I remember there's a snow day and our show was canceled, but Mr. Goodwin Drood was still going. They were giving out free tickets, and so I went and saw it, and I was just so taken with it. Immediately, even when I walked in and sat down, I just like the vibe in there was just so yummy. And of course, the cast members come out before the show and are talking with the crowd and ad-libbing. And it was so fun. And, at the end, you vote on what the ending is. It's like, there's no musical like it. Um, and I just had that moment like, oh, this. I mean, I was doing Scandalous, which I was very grateful to do and fine, but I just was like, oh, but this show, this is a good show. Yeah, and and then so not long after Scandalous ended, um, Andy Carl left the show. I forget what he was going to do. I think was going to do another show. Anyway, um, or maybe went back into Jersey Boys because Mr. Viv and Drood was like a limited run. Something. For some reason he left, and so they had replacement auditions, and I went in and I booked it, and again I got to work with these great Stephanie J. Block and Jesse Mueller and my one of my vocal idols of all time, Greg Edelman from City of Angels and many other shows. Oh, I've listened to that City of Angels soundtrack so many times, and I just love his voice and um and I've had people say like, "Oh, you sound a little like Greg Edelman," which is like the biggest compliment that I could possibly get. Um, but so that was incredible. Oh my gosh! And Cheetah Rivera was in that show. How do I
Mhm.
forget Cheetah Rivera? I mean, at the end, the audience votes on the lovers, and a handful of times they would vote for my character, Neville Landless, and Puffer, Cheetah's part, to be the lovers. And I mean, and there we are, just like improvising some love scene. And at one point, like Cheetah Rivera was like tickling my butt, and I was just like, and all you think about in that moment on stage is, oh my God, Cheetah Rivera is tickling my butt right now. This is amazing. And yeah, and it was incredible. And that show was might be the most fun I've had on a stage ever. So, yeah.
Yeah, I had Andy on the podcast and we've talked about the ending, and he's like sometimes it would be like Cheetah and like the young guy or the young boy who were the lovers and all that stuff. So
hmm
it's a deep regret of mine that I did get to miss that show. And again, I live right around the corner, so I had no excuse.
Well, the best or the worst, whichever way you want to look at it, when they would choose the lovers, because Jesse Mueller
Oh
and
yeah,
Andy or I were brother and sister in
yeah.
the show as characters, and the audience would vote for them to be the lovers, and that was so fun to play, just like the shame and disgust of like having to fall in love with your sister was so fun to play. So,
And as gross as it sounds, it happens.
well, it does.
Yeah.
They have to ask you that when you're pregnant, like, are you related, and so yeah, because it's, there's genetic issues there if you are, so they do ask that question. So
Wow, I don't know how to go from there. So let's just move on, shall we?
yeah, just a
Yeah.
little medical fun
Yeah.
fact.
But you know what? It's also aside from theater, this podcast can be very educational in other ways.
That's right. That's what I'm here to provide.
So, can I ask something that you don't have to respond to if you don't want to? When you were in the rehearsal for Scandalous,
Yeah.
did you kind of know then, or did you not? And I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I I think it was known that this was going to be a tough sell. Um, I mean, I'll say I remember because I was not in Act One barely at all. So I had almost all of Act One in my dressing room. I came out at the very end of Act One. And so in rehearsals, I was making jokes, like, because it was around the holidays that we opened, and I was like, oh, well, I have all this free time. I'll have all this free time backstage. Like, why don't I wrap everyone's Christmas presents, in my free time? And I remember Carolee Carmelo saying to me, I said that to her, and she's like, gosh, I hope we make it to Christmas, and sadly we did not. But yeah, I think there was just a sense of, the material, the material, and it wasn't, and it's like, what is this show about? I think that's part of it too, is just it wasn't based on a movie. It wasn't based on a known product or, dis, dis what is the word? Discography, whatever, like a Jersey Boys or whatever. And so that was just going to be a tough sell anyway. And yeah, I mean, you can see the writing on the wall pretty well. And even when my agents were negotiating it, I mean, it was clear they were like, Andrew, I don't think this show is going to last very long. But it's still a Broadway credit. And I mean, Carolee got a Tony nomination out of it. And um, and and it's funny because so many people, I had friends who came to that show, and I know this sounds like a weird compliment, but like I think everyone expected the worst. Like it was just going to be this terrible, and they all went like, "No, it wasn't that bad," like, and it really wasn't. It just wasn't terribly good either. And that's it's really hard to make a musical. It just is, I mean, even with Little Miss Sunshine, when we were doing the read-throughs like in the rehearsal room,
Mhm.
I think we all were so excited. We're like, this is great. Like this is gonna be a hit. And we got on stage, I was like, it just doesn't work for whatever reason. And that happens. So
Yeah. I mean, I've been seeing again, aging myself.
yes,
I've been-
please.
Thank you. I've been seeing shows for over 30 years, and I've seen some fucking duds, and I've
Yeah.
seen some really great things and things that you think are great, but they don't last, or things that you think are duds that do last. So it's really, it's just really hard nowadays to just kind of know what's going to work and what's not. And sometimes certain shows need to have the longevity to find their audience, and then unfortunately they're not given that opportunity to do so. And then they have
Hmm.
like this totally different life afterwards. I mean, look at Heather's the musical. Like
Yeah.
I don't think it had that long of a run off Broadway, but it became popular because of the bootleg. And they had this run in the West End and now it's coming back. So, you never know with certain shows.
I mean, I think the jewel example is Merrily We Roll Along.
Yeah.
Like that show just, flopped originally, and people tried to keep reviving it and keep reviving it. No one seemed to be able to figure it out. And then this last revival just
Mhm.
knocked it out of the park. And
But
there
I
you
think they
go.
were reworking it throughout the years too. So it wasn't like the same.
Sure.
So it was definitely
Right.
from what
Right.
I heard and read. And
Right. Right. Right.
yeah.
But
But
like, yeah, but in a sense, but still the same show. And so you just like, you never know. And honestly, audiences can change too. It's interesting doing Parade right now because, 25 years ago when it was, on Broadway originally, it resonated, but it didn't resonate like it resonates now,
yeah.
and that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And it didn't, it won this revival won best revival, won best director, and the original, I don't, our tour, this tour will be the longest running production of Parade ever.
Wow.
So the Broadway production, I only lasted a few months. The tour of it only lasted a few months. Then, of course, this revival only did 6 months, limited engagement, and ours will be 8 months. So, and that'll be the longest run of the show. So,
Amazing. Yeah, just to piggyback on what you were saying, my friend and I had a conversation a while back talking about Spring Awakening, and we were like,
mm,
was, for the time that it was on Broadway, it was so different. I don't want to say like groundbreaking is not the right word. I can't think of the right word, but we were also saying like, but if it was put on now, it would just be a total
mm,
thing and it wouldn't have the effect that it did back in the day.
hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I understand what you're saying with audiences and especially with Parade and what's, happening in the world.
yeah. Not
Yeah.
to get political, please, but
Yeah.
it resonates,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's what theater does. It evolves, and audiences evolve, and material evolves. I mean, it's funny looking at Rent now. I mean, Rent almost seems quaint, looking back at it, and it doesn't resonate today, but
Mhm.
it's certainly like a a moment in time that resonates like
Yeah.
massively, and it's such a representation of that time.
Mhm.
But I'm not sure it's timeless. like maybe other shows might be, or maybe it will be. Maybe in another 20 years it will be. I don't know. It's so interesting that way. So,
Yeah, I went to that town hall Lin-Manuel Miranda thing on Monday that they did.
mm,
Um,
hmm
they did like his musical journey, and it was very, very long, but it was so incredible. And they did a bunch of songs from Rent and certain medleys and mix-ins and stuff. And you sometimes kind of forget how great that show is, especially
Oh,
when the melodies align with certain stuff. Uh,
yeah.
and then Tom Francis, who's in Sunset Boulevard right now, is like, I want to play Roger and Rent. And I'm like, watch there be a revival with him because he's
Mm,
like the Broadway boy right now.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, you never know with Rent, right?
No, and it's a great show.
Yeah.
It's and maybe I shouldn't say that. I just
But I
it
understand
because
what you're saying. I get it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
Because
it needs more time to simmer even. I just think it was such a big hit then that like it's not going to be that now,
yeah.
but maybe it would be again in 20 years. It would just come back around. So, yeah.
I mean, I think with the right director and cast and maybe doing it in a different way, like how they're doing Sunset Boulevard so differently, and how I'm sure Parade is different from I didn't see the original
Hmm.
Parade, but this production is so different, and especially because you have oh my God, why can't I think of the main character's name?
Oh, Leo.
Yeah, I had to think of how somebody said it in my head. Yeah, how Leo's on stage for the not to spoil anything,
No.
but he's on stage for like the entirety of intermission, and
Hmm.
I don't know if that happened in the original production. So
No, no, it didn't. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, yeah. Michael, I mean, I mean, I don't, it's interesting. I mean, he's like the go-to director right now in so many ways, as he should be, but like I'm not sure which he's better, if he's a better performer or a better director, because he's an incredible performer.
mhm,
Um, Playing the Hunchback, of course, and obviously other things, but like he's an incredible actor, performer, and director. So, and also again, just another incredible human being. It's just so nice to see like great success happen to good people. And I think Broadway is mostly good people. I mean, I just don't think you're going to stick around if you're not a pleasure to work with. I think Kate said this to me once recently. I was teaching a class at the University of Utah, and I think she came in one day and she said this. She's like, at some point, you're all good. Everyone's good in the room. And then the next level is some point everyone's a hard worker. And then the thing above that is, are you a pleasure to work with?
mhm,
Like that's kind of the career like mentality you have to have. And I think that's true. At a certain point, everyone's good, everyone works hard, everyone's a professional, and then you got to be easy to work with, or a joy to work with, or you know, um, so. And Michael, my point was that Michael Arden is such a pleasure, and I think he picks people who are good people to work with, and it makes a difference, in the rooms. So
yeah.
a bad apple can create a very toxic environment, which is when you're making like doing this vulnerable artistic stuff, it's not good. So anyway,
I do agree with that because that's one of the big things that we talk about on the podcast is just, being kind to everybody and,
mm,
being a hard worker and all that, and just being a pleasure to work with because I always say front of house people talk. And
yep.
I have mentioned on this podcast, I have never named the person on the podcast, but there is somebody I went up to at a Mamma Mia after party, and they were such a dick face to me, and I have never forgotten it. And I was also just like, calm down, you went into Mamma Mia. Like, I didn't say that to them, but I was very excited they were going into the show, and they were such a dick to me after. Um, but yeah, you just have to be nice to people. And I was talking to somebody and they said, yeah, I'm always nice. And, there was this person doing merch at the show I worked at. And then, like, years later, they're producing, a cabaret at 54 Below and asked me to be a part of it because they remember I was nice to them, So
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
everybody, because you never know who's going to be successful and remember you for just treating them like a human.
No, Kate always says catch more bees with honey,
Yeah.
and I think it's very true. And it goes back to the story about Matt and the audition in South Pacific. Like, be nice to your fellow actors. You never know when they'll return the favor. And I mean, if you want to do it to just, to make it in the, if you want to just be nice so that you can make it farther in the business, sure, I guess. But like let's just agree that it's better to be a good human being. It's it's makes the world a better place, and listen, it's showbiz. There's a lot of egos, and there's a lot of feelings and drama, and that can be okay to a point, but at some point you got to know, when you're being destructive as opposed to in your artistry. And it's not always clear that people understand the difference. So, yeah.
Which again, I'm not naming that person, but maybe off podcast. Okay, so speaking of drama,
Mamma mia.
yeah. Well, by the way, when you're like, what are the shirtless dads? I'm like, I don't think any of the dads are shirtless in it, so you're fine.
No, but who knows this revival? They might all be
Okay,
shirtless.
here's so I do merch now part-time, but
Uh-huh.
years ago in my early 20s, again, not to age myself, I worked for a different merch company and their main show was Mamma Mia. So I know it very well. And my friends, if we're like out somewhere, like celebrating my birthday, like at Hoswell's Green, they'll like have them play a Mamma Mia song and then they'll like
Hmm.
dance with Megamex. But I was
Amazing.
so curious to know who was going to be in this Broadway cast, and it's the entire tour cast.
Yeah.
So, which is so cool. But I was so curious for months to know who was going to do it. And I'm pretty sure they're going to send it back on tour and then they're going to bring in new people. I highly doubt that show is going anywhere.
Yeah, I love it too. I listen, like, you usually expect like a, a tour, a show to come into Broadway, and they just start getting big names and whatever to sell the show. And listen, and I don't know everyone that's working, and forgive me, I didn't recognize this cast, and that's just probably because I'm older and I don't know as many people, and I haven't been in New York for a few years. But I mean, I honestly, like, hats off to the producers to just be like, no, we're bringing in these people. Like, they're great in the show, and the show is going to sell. We don't need the Matthew Broderick or the whatever to sell the show. Like, we just know it's a fun show and people are going to come, and so we have a good cast and we're going to use them. And I love that, and it doesn't happen rarely anymore. So
First off, Matthew Broderick, Mamma Mia would be incredible. He
it
would
really
be,
would.
yeah. Well, it's so funny too, because when I worked there, I was like, who'd be a really good Donna? Cher. And cut to the second
Oh
movie,
my
she's like
goodness.
Donna's mom. But I have the Cher ABBA album and it's incredible.
Uh-huh.
But I will say, I don't think because of the movies and the movie has like such a huge cult following now, I don't think Mamma Mia needs any big names to sell tickets.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And I love it when the show is the star, you
Yeah.
know, like um so yeah.
Yeah. That's what my friends and I talk about. And they're like, oh, there's a name going into the show. That's when you know.
Yeah,
But I
no,
mean,
it's true.
sometimes some of the names that go into the show are pretty fucking great.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Like, it's just, and I get it, like, you got to sell tickets, man. Like, it's a business. I get it. It's just but when you can give those opportunities for less known actors, it's wonderful. So,
Yeah. So let's transition into bridges in Madison County because I feel like that is such a
yes.
big thing in your life. And I have watched you sing Wondering countless times on YouTube because
Oh.
I love that song. Uh,
Hmm.
so how did that come into your life and what was it like working with Bart again and touring the country with this show?
Yeah, yeah, that was a long audition process as well. I wouldn't say strung me along, but they it was just more like they made me wait until until I found out that I got it. And yeah, I think I auditioned twice for it.
Was it
And there
like
were
something Bart had you in mind for because he worked with you before, or were you just like going in because you knew the other?
no, I had I had done something with Jason Robert Brown before too, because I knew him somehow. I can't believe I can't remember why I was already acquainted with him. And then of course Bart with South Pacific, but I I think I just went in for like a like not early audition, like they brought me in a little later,
Mhm.
and I don't even think it was for Bart and Jason at the time, but it was like, this, let's just do this round to get you to the final round. And I had felt confident that like Bart and Jason would hopefully see me to the end. Um, and they did. And yeah, and I know they were like pairing up certain people, and that plays a part. I never auditioned with anyone, but I know that goes into part of it too, and the look of the show. But but yeah, I auditioned, and Bart's he's a tough auditioner. He really is. And luckily, like I already had a rapport with him, and I know he can be tough and be a straight shooter and stuff, and it doesn't really bother me. So we just had a very honest audition, but obviously we can work together, and I really like him, and I actually appreciate his honesty. Uh, so yeah, and final edition, and then I waited like another month till I found out I got it. And it was a that has probably been the dream role. I think artistically, I it just might be my favorite score as that type of singer myself. Like if there
Did
was
you
a
see it on
score I'd
Broadway?
ever want to sing, what's
Sorry, I
that?
didn't need to talk over you. Did you see it when it was on Broadway?
I did, and that score was extraordinary, and Kelly and Stephen Pasquale, of course, were extraordinary. Um, it's a tricky show. It's a show, obviously, about an affair, and that's a hard sell in some ways. It's like, hey, honey, like, want to go see the show about the affair? Like, it's not a family show. It's not something to bring the kids to. It's a weird date night show because it's about an affair, and yet it's a very beautiful show about a very real thing, about a very real people and things that happen in the real world, and I think really beautiful characters, complicated characters that were so beautiful to dive into and play. And then the score is just, oh, I think it's my favorite score of Jason Robert Brown's, and that's high praise because he's got some incredible scores. But to sing it every night was the highlight, I think, of my performance career. Um, and yeah, it was interesting bringing it around the country because every city was different. We Elizabeth Stanley, who I played opposite of, we went to Des Moines like a few weeks before we opened to do some press, and we
Mhm.
did some radio stuff, and then we went down to Winterset, where the bridges of Madison County are, around that area, to this cute little old-timey town hall square, and there was like the Bridges Festival, and we there was like an outdoor like performance area, and different groups were playing, and we sang three songs. And like, oh, we're the touring company or whatever, and we're gonna open in Des Moines in whatever, in a month or two. And we sang a few songs. And after us was this local gospel choir, which was like eight old white people. And this lady takes the mic after we performed of the gospel choir and goes like, "Hi, we're the blah 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 gospel choir, and we sing songs about the Lord. We don't sing songs about affairs. like in a real snotty way. And I was just like, oh, like, okay, this is this is going to be
Not
an
her
interesting
audience.
show
Yeah.
to tour around the country. And some audiences were more conservative, and we got to LA and it was almost like they were cheering us on. They're like, "Yeah, go, go get them, you guys." Whatever that says about LA. But it was always tricky to talk about in interviews on TV and stuff. Like, well, what's the show about? And we're like, well, it's really about love, and which it is, but it's tricky. And but it was very fulfilling to do, and it's a very special show to me because I think a month or two before that, Kate and I had just started dating, and she was very leery about dating me. 'Cause she's like, "You're leaving, you're going on tour," and I was just like, "Well, yeah, but." We can still visit each other and blah blah blah, and it was like a limited tour, and I have these layoffs, and she's like, oh, okay, well, maybe. And we visit each other all the time, and we ended up not only getting engaged during the tour, we got married during the tour as well. And so yeah, and and every night you sing All Fades Away, and you're thinking about this woman that you're choosing to spend the rest of your life with, and doing that kind of show. It was a very special time and a very special show. So yeah.
Great. So, it's so funny that you mentioned like they would cheer you on. I really love audience reactions. So, doing Parade, which is a very different show, and then you have Parade.
Yes.
There are a certain, I mean, aside from Druid, because I'm sure audience reactions to that were great. Do you have
hmm
a memorable audience reaction that, as a performer on the stage, you have heard or witnessed?
Like, memorable can be you can take that a lot of different ways.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, I'll give you an example. I saw John Proctor's The Villain for a second time the other day, and
mm,
somebody in the audience did "Bleh" during one of the scenes. It was, I don't want to give too much away, but it's a scene between the teacher and the student, and stuff is happening, and everyone's like, oh God, blah. So, like in a funny way. But anyway, that was a great reaction.
I do remember doing Mr. Edwin Drood, the narrator. Um, my God, I'm blanking on his name, but incredible actor, older actor. He like the show stops. We're at the part where the show stops, and like, and he starts explaining it. And at one point, he says, "Who am I?" Like, and I forget why he says it, but he says like, "Who am I?" Like it was almost like, "Who am I to decide how this like how this show should end?" But he says, "Who am I?" He says, "Who am I?" And someone in the audience yelled out, "I'm Jean Valjean!" Like, and
Yeah.
it was amazing. So. Uh, that was great, and yeah, we didn't really acknowledge it. I kind of wish we had more, but um, what are some other good audience reactions? I'm just whatever is coming to mind. When we did Queen of the Mist,
Mhm.
it was
Your
we did.
your your Drama Desk nominated performance.
Yes, yes. When I just really wanted to talk more about my Drama Desk nomination. Thanks, so thank you. But no, it's I that's another very special show to me. It was this beautiful show about this very complicated woman who went first person to go over Niagara Falls in a barrel and live. And
Mhm.
she was a very complicated woman, very tough person. And at the very end, true story, she dies kind of destitute and on the streets by near Niagara Falls, like selling postcards. And at the end of the show, we honor her in this very special kind of elegant way. And I love it. It's a beautiful ending. It's so emotional. And my friend Eliseo Roman, who was the original Piragua guy in The Heights, one of the most wonderful people you'll ever meet, he came to the show, and it's this very quiet moment at the end where we're all standing behind her with like these golden rods, and we put a crown on her, and we're like honoring her as if she's gone to heaven. And I just hear we're in this little like gym of a theater downtown, And like it's this quiet moment at the end, we're honoring her, and I just hear from the audience Eliseo go, "Fierce." And I knew it was him. And it was incredible.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. So let's
Yeah.
talk Lempicka because you've said that's the longest you've ever been with the show. So how did Lempicka come into your life?
Yeah, I was this was
Because you did in
jeez.
Williamstown in 2018.
I was gonna say 2018. I was trying to remember the year. So yeah, 2018 comes along, and I have like a few projects lined up, like little things. Like oh, I have so many projects. No, they were just like little things, but
I have all of your stuff written. You have done a lot of things. You even
no,
did some TV stuff, you know.
sure, sure. No, I'm very fortunate, but but no, I just get a call from my agent with an offer for the Williamstown production, and it was starting in 5 weeks. And I think what happened was they just wanted to go a different way with whatever person was playing the role in the workshops that they'd been doing. And what I had learned was that they had a short list. And they needed to make a decision like right away, of course, and they didn't have time to audition anyone. And the composer, Matt Gould, told me the story that he looked at the list and he was like five of us, and he was like, and he like four of the people he was just like he whatever he had an opinion about. He was like, no, 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 no. And he saw my name, he's like, well, I don't really know this guy, so let's try him. And that's how I got picked. And and the craziest part about that entire uh situation is that well, and I listened to the demos and everything. Like, do you want to do this? And I listened to 30 seconds of the first song, and I was like, yes. I thought the music was incredible, and I was like, well, whatever this is, I want to do it because the music was so good. And um, and I start piecing it together. Matt Gould, Matt Gould, Matt Gould, my best friend from college was in the Peace Corps in Mauritania, Africa, with someone named Matt Gould that he would write me letters about saying, this guy is in Africa, Matt. He writes musicals. You should meet him. He's amazing. And I thought this was 6, 8 years before this. And I just remembered the name. And I was like, is that the same Matt Gould? I was like, yeah, sure, buddy. I'm going to remember your Peace Corps friend in Africa who was writing musicals. And it was the same Matt Gould. And I go up to him the first day of rehearsal. I was like, my best friend from college is Barton Bryan. And he's like, jaw fell on the floor, just like, oh my God. So it was just like, it was almost like meant to be.
Yeah.
And we did the read through and very early on, they like, luckily, like I, did the read through rehearsals and they just immediately were like, oh, you're the guy. Oh, you're the guy. And like for whatever reason, I just fit what they were looking for, and luckily, and so I stayed with the project ever since.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm so glad it got to Broadway. I mean, that was such a fraught journey. I mean, the Williamstown production was amazing, and then whatever it was, a year and a half later, 2 years later, we were supposed to do it at La Jolla and in March, and the world shut down with COVID. And see, 2 years later, we didn't do it again. End up doing it at La Jolla. And 2 years after that, we get to Broadway. And I'm really crushed that it didn't last so long. It was a tough year. Like there were just so many new shows, and there were a lot of factors that just made it a really tough sell. It was like, what is this thing? Lempicka, nobody knows what it is. It's not a movie, it's not a book, it's not the music of the Beatles or whatever you want it to be. And we put our blood, sweat, and tears into that show, and it's a very special show to me. And I'm glad we got to make the album, and I'm glad Eden and Amber got Tony nominations out of it. And uh much deserved. So there was a lot of good in that, and a very, very long, of course, process in developing it for some very unfortunate reasons, but it will always hold a very special place for me. So
Yeah. Well, I saw the show. I did not see Eden in it. I saw her understudy.
Oh, Marianne, yeah.
I thought she
It
was
was amazing.
incredible. Yeah,
Yeah.
incredible. And I said to myself, Eden is going to be nominated for a Tony Award. Because sometimes,
Yeah.
even with the understudy, you just know based on who the performer is and then what the character is and what they have to do in the show. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
she sings her face off the entire show with like hardly any breaks. She's going to be
Mhm.
nominated for a Tony Award. And she was.
Yep. Yep. And
Yeah.
she should have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she more than anyone had been with that project for years longer than I had even, and had played different roles in it, and ultimately came back to the title role. And that show was just so demanding vocally and physically, that I'm glad she got some proper accolades out of it. So
You got to work with Rachel. I can't speak English apparently.
I
Rachel.
know Rachel
Chavkin.
Chavkin. I
Yeah.
know. I was I was putting together like a teaching resume the other day, and and you have to brag about yourself, which I'm not always great about, but I counted it up, and I was like, wow, I've worked with six Tony winning directors,
Yeah, your list is
and
pretty great.
that's wild to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking, we're gonna go backtrack a little bit because I forgot to ask. Speaking of Tony winning directors, Come From Away, national tour.
Yep.
That was a
Hmm.
big thing as well. And you have a thing about playing real life people. So you have Tadeusz, see,
Perfect.
automatic. Thank you.
Nailed it.
Mic drop. You also have Kevin T from Come From Away. So what
Hmm.
was the Come From Away experience like for you?
Come From Away, it was another one where I went and saw the show. I think Kate and I saw it on our 1 year anniversary, actually, and she was already four months pregnant with her son, and we just sat there with tears in our eyes at the end with huge. That's the thing about that show. You're like you have huge smiles on your face and you're weeping at the same time, just like just reveling in the good of humanity. And I just love the show. And so when the tour came around, I was like, yes, please. Like, I would love to do that. And luckily I booked it. And it's probably the the best performing situation like I've ever had. Like Bridges was very fulfilling artistically. Like South Pacific, like the whole scope of that experience is like second to none. Mystery Road and Drew was maybe the most fun. Um, but Come From Away, like an hour and a half show or hour 40 minutes or whatever it is, it's not terribly demanding vocally or physically on the actor. Everyone's so active in the show that it just flies by. The audience just goes nuts for it every night. And we were literally done with the show before South Pacific's first act would have ended. South Pacific, I think, had an hour and 45 first act, and Come From Away was hour 40 total. And so it was just a very pleasurable show to do, and we had great people on that show as well. And so everywhere we went, like we audiences loved us, and it was a good schedule. And so, and again, just a show that you're really proud of being a part of. You're just spreading good into the world, um, and sending people away just feeling hopeful that there are still good people in the world, generous people, and there are. So yeah, and to work with Christopher Ashley I mean, that show was flawlessly directed. It's such a tricky show. It's just, there's so many moving parts in that show that Chris just absolutely knocked it out of the park. So yeah, another Tony winning director notch on my headboard, I guess.
Yeah.
Headboard? That sounds a little dirtier than on my belt, I guess. But
Put it in
but yeah, it
bedpost. Isn't it bedpost?
bedpost. I
Yeah,
guess yeah, it's
something
your
like that.
bedpost,
Yeah.
right? Um, but uh but yeah, it was great, and did that for a year and a half, and then COVID shut us down.
Yeah.
So
How was COVID life for you?
COVID was a real blessing, honestly, for me. I had been away from uh obviously Kate and Luke, and I mean, and honestly, things were difficult. Like family life was a little tricky at that point, and I was on tour, and Kate was shooting High School Musical, the musical, the series, and I would fly to see them every 2 weeks. But it was, it's just like showbiz life is just not conducive to family life, for the most part. And and so when COVID hit, I got to go to Salt Lake City where Kate was there to shoot the next season of High School Musical series, which also got shut down, but then later started shooting again during COVID. But anyway, and I got to be there and we got to be together as a family and just like put that unit, like solidify that unit again and like be a family again and be there for each other and work on relationship issues because like when you're an actor and you're long distance, like it's tough and I will say I take a lot of responsibility for making it tough because Kate's a much nicer person than I am, and so I got an opportunity to just like be a good partner again and be a good husband and Kate had our son all this time on tour mostly, and so I get to be a present father again, and like so it was honestly it was a gift, and we were in Salt Lake City for this, which we're so grateful for too because we could, I mean, if you've never been, it's beautiful part of the country, and 20 minutes away we're up and we would go outside and up into the mountains and hike around and be outside instead of holed up in our New York apartment, which I'm sure was very difficult for I don't for people in New York. I can't imagine. And so we had wide open spaces and mountains and things to do and a house that we were living in that we were renting and so so for me I was very grateful for that time. Um and here I am back on tour, uh, which is again, I think hard for the family, but I think we know how to do it better now. And it's not really something I want to do again, honestly. Like it is hard. So trying to figure out what that means, in our world in show business. But as far as COVID, it was such an opportunity to really to grow and I think a lot of us, a lot of people use that time for self-reflection, for better, for worse. And luckily, we've really used it for better. And I was so grateful that we had that time together. It almost, we would remember we watched a lot of Great British Bake Off because it just
Oh,
made us
oh,
feel happy.
mhm.
And but like how we got through that time, how anyone did, like with a kid, like it seems so long ago and not that long ago at the same time. So,
Well, let's keep it on a happy note. Do you still watch British Bake Off?
oh gosh, yes, like like it's it only comes once a year, and then it's like it's weekly, and you have to wait, and it's. I mean, when COVID hit, we neither of us had watched any of it, so we were just binging like 10 seasons of Great British Bake Off, and now we have to wait every year for the handful of episodes that come out which is like it was so much more fun to just have hundreds of hours of happy little string quartet music and friendly British people baking things to make us happy. So yeah.
Well, I just want because I love Alison Hammond, so I'm so happy that she's on British Bake Off now as one of the
Yes.
yeah, and she was even on the celebrity one, so she has like this very like famous because they do like the celebrity stand up to cancer British Bake Off, so it's mostly British celebrities. So
Sure.
she has like that famous like she's putting her brownies in the oven, but the door to the oven slides under, and she goes, "Where is the door gone?"
Right.
Yeah, it's so great. But I will say somebody introduced me to something called the Great Pottery Off or something where it's kind of like British Bake Off, but it's pottery makers
Oh, cool.
and it's
I would
on
like
Max.
that.
Yeah, but it's only five
Okay.
seasons on Max and I can't find the other seasons everywhere. And somebody's like, one of the judges, he just cries when he sees like a beautiful like pottery piece. He gets so emotional. And what I found is like we call it urinals, but they call it urinals.
Oh,
So
really?
when they're like, "Oh yeah, you have to make a urinal," I was like, "That is
How have I not heard that one? I mean, I've heard the other, you know,
British slang
um,
stuff."
yeah, but I've not heard uranal. My
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah, we say urinal, they say urinal.
Interesting. Well,
You
do
just
they
have to watch it now just for that.
and they're making urinals on
Yeah,
the show.
yeah,
Well, of
ceramic
course they are.
urinals and
Yeah.
toilets. I remember, yeah, but it's so interesting too, and it's also just I have like now a new appreciation for people who make pottery.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, we're going to be all over this, but even baking, like neither Kate nor I bakes, but we still revel in their attempts at baking, you
yeah.
know. Kate is not a I think she'll be she admits that she would be a terrible baker because she's not a precise person by any means, but I think I would be okay. I do like being precise, but so anyway, we
Well, if
it
they
makes
ever
us
do like a
happy.
Broadway Bake Off, that will be your chance to see if you can do it.
Oh my gosh, right? I mean, that's the problem though. Like you put that show in America and I just feel like it would get way too competitive. I mean, at the very end, all they win is a cake stand, you
Mhm.
know?
But
Like
their
in America, it would
careers,
have to be like
though,
$100,000
yeah, but their careers like blow up. There's this one
for
woman who
sure.
won, just she's the biggest thing. But it is true because you have, I mean, I love a baking show. Um, and you see like the American versions of the baking shows, and then you see like the Great British Bake Off, and everybody's just so pleasant and
Yeah,
delightful. And
they
it's
help
just
each
like,
other.
yeah, and the most
Yeah.
like heartwarming thing. And then like you see the American shows, and it's so different.
No, it's just it gets too competitive and it gets like we just thrive on the drama of
Yeah.
and the real housewives of things, which is fine, but like it's just not what I need to like feel happy in the world. So
You're gonna watch that new show on Max, the
I certainly am. I
Pottery Throwdown.
100% am.
And then also they have a glass blowing competition.
Oh, I've watched all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There-
I was going to mention that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And then there's also, oh my God, I'm gonna like name two more. They had one, somebody told me they're like, you need to go outside. But I think it was during the pandemic. I don't know if it was one or two seasons, but it was like a floral competition in the
I
UK.
do remember this. I
Yeah.
think we watched one of them. I don't know why we didn't keep watching it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then there
I
was
remember that.
another UK one called Glow Up, where it's all makeup artists, and they're like the MUAs all competing. This is my terrible British
Interesting.
accent, but
Oh,
yeah,
no, not bad. You said today, you should right. Um,
and it's written out phonetically,
I mean, part of it is the judges. I just think if you have the right culture and the right judges, like it, and the right hosts, like
and a
that
good
makes a big
catchphrase.
difference too.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, Glow Up. If the female makeup artist like really likes it, like the judge, she'll say "ding dong."
All
That
right.
gets a
Perfect.
ding dong. It's like,
I am hooked. I am
yeah.
hooked just for
Yeah.
that.
It's so interesting too. And it's because they also talk about now, and it's the culture too with social media, because all these people, if this is like 20 years ago and social media wasn't a thing, like you're not going to have the following or anything.
Hmm.
You even need these competitions. And like even look at the singing competitions now. You have TikTok, you have Instagram, you have whatever the fuck else is out there to like
Hmm.
and stuff out. Like look at what's her face? Chapel Rowan was huge on TikTok, and now she's like a Grammy winning performer.
Yep.
It's just
No,
really interesting.
it's like showbiz has changed.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's just a different entertainment has changed a lot. And not to get into it, but
You
it's,
can get
you
into
know,
it.
there's a lot more competition, you know, it's like theater, Broadway, I think is doing all right, but like regional theaters are suffering and I think tours are doing okay, but like you're competing for attention and eyeballs and people are in their Instagrams and their TikToks and they're not. going to the movies obviously as much, and so it's just harder out there right now.
Also,
So, or you just got to think, you got to think differently about it for sure.
oh, I also think movies are ridiculously expensive now.
That too, it's more of like a luxury. I feel like they're trying to make it a more upscale experience with you know, the recliners and everything. And
Yeah.
but yeah, it's hard when you can just go home and watch Netflix on your couch. So
Just don't release it on Netflix and the theater. That's the problem.
that too, I know. I don't know what the business model says to do, but
Mhm.
it's tough. Yeah.
Well, speaking of touring, let's talk about what you're currently doing right now, Parade.
Yes.
How
Hmm.
did Parade come into your life? You were reunited with Quasimodo himself, Tony-winning director
Yes.
Michael Arden, who, by the way,
Hmm.
you haven't been to New York to see Maybe Happy Ending, right?
I did see it when I was there in rehearsal. Yes.
Okay, I saw the show.
Delightful.
No, I agree. And I sat there, I was like, all right, why do people say this is best musical? And at the end of the show, I was like, this musical is perfect. It needs to win every single Tony Award it's nominated for.
Mm.
It needs to win best musical, and I will fight anybody who disagrees with me.
I mean, I think it has a good chance. I think it could do very well, you
Yeah.
know. Um, yeah, Michael, he just seems to keep reinventing his directorial style almost even. I mean, from Spring Awakening to Once on This Island to to Parade to then maybe Happy Ending, they're all so different.
Yeah.
And been so impressed with his ability to uh to like to be successful in all of them, and I haven't seen this Queen of Versailles, but I know people are really excited about it, so
I mean, you have
that'll
time
be another one.
in the fall. Saint, it's coming
What's
to
it?
Broadway. You have time. It's coming to Broadway in the fall.
Yes, 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 yes. But again, another one that I hear is exciting. So yeah, he's just the loveliest person. Um, I was so grateful that he wanted me to do this role, and it's a really juicy role. I mean, he's off clearly my character's not a good person, but he's actually quite fun to play. Um,
I
and
had Paul Alexander Nolan on when he was doing Parade, and I'm trying to remember how I politely but truthfully what I said about his character. I think
mm,
I mentioned asshole in my description,
yep,
but I can't remember the exact words. I don't think it was arrogant asshole, but I think asshole was used in my description of the character.
yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Um, bigoted asshole. That's a good one. But yeah, but I mean, as the actor playing it, he has a lot of fun, I think, like being so manipulative and winning his
That's
case
what
and
it
all
was.
that.
Manipulative asshole. There we go.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and so and again, like I'm just a cog in the story, in the telling of the story, and it wouldn't, people ask you like, how do you play these terrible people? And you just go, well, because that's how you serve the story, it doesn't serve the story for me to like play a terrible person like nicer, it serves the story for me to play the person the way it needs to be played to tell the story. And these are real people, and they have, really been, dark, they're a real dark part of history. Um, but doing the show itself, these types of shows, it was the same with Bridges. Like it's not a show that show probably doesn't tour normally, and Parade is not a type of show that tours normally. It's usually these big, entertaining, kind of family shows mostly that go around the country, and so it does feel like an opportunity, a privilege, and a responsibility to share this story around the country, uh, with a broader audience than just in New York. And so I feel very proud again to be a part of this show. I feel like I've been on a lot of shows and there's nothing wrong with a super entertaining, fun show that just lets you like be distracted for a couple hours and put a smile on your face. I love that too.
Well, I feel like if Mamma Mia does stay around, because I feel like that's where our conversation has been leading to, you playing one of the dads in Mamma Mia. So I feel like, I could see you as a Sam. I don't
Oh,
know how
thank
well you do
you.
accents, but you never know.
No, there was my first audition in New York after I graduated from grad school. Um, I got an audition for Sky in Mamma Mia, and I didn't get it. And then Q to however many years later it was, I got the fateful call that I got an audition for one of the dads in Mamma Mia, and I didn't get it again, but it was the moment of like, oh, oh, I'm there now. I'm
Mhm.
there now. And
I was around that age or a few years away from like saying, "Oh, I can play not Donna, probably Rosie," but it's like it's gonna happen in a few years.
no, you reach that moment and it comes sooner than you're not prepared. You didn't realize it comes until it comes.
Mhm.
And to use the magic phrase, not to age myself. But no, it happened again with Les Mis. I had actually booked Enjolras in the tour of Les Mis years ago, and then it came to Broadway, and they had me come in for Andros again, and I thought, well, great, I've already booked this like before, but I didn't do it at the time because whatever I did something else, but I got an audition for it again. I was like, well, this is great. They love me. They've already hired me for this. I couldn't do it, and then I went in, and they said, oh no, you're too old now. So, would you like to come back in for Javert? And but
So,
yeah,
hold on, which revival was this? Was it the last revival they did like 10 years ago, or is it like the one that Daphne Rubin Vega was in?
The one that Daphne Rubin, I guess it was Daphne. I don't remember her, but I remember Alfie Boe came back and played
Okay.
it. Ramin, I think, was the lead for what was,
Yeah,
I think,
so
the
it
original
is
Broadway lead.
definitely the last revival they had because Ramin was.
Yes. Yeah. And so yeah. I've gotten older. That's the point of the story.
Mhm.
So
It's okay. Well, let's talk more parade because we got off topic yet again. So when doing something like this, it's going to be a very cliche question, but I don't care because I'm curious. Do you do any type of research for a show like this, or you given research material for this part?
yeah, yeah. We have a whole dramaturgy packet that they gave us. We had the benefit of them having already done the show on Broadway. So they had obviously done a lot of research for that. And I guess you would like to think you usually get a dramaturgy packet when in a production of this, magnitude or, professional, but you don't always. And so we got a hefty dramaturgy packet about all the characters and the history and the setting and the culture of the time. And that was all super helpful. I had the benefit of seeing the revival, so I had an innate sense of the show and the way it was being directed too, uh, and Paul Nolan I'm just such a fan of him, and uh, watching what he did with the role, not to copy him, but to let it inform me to a degree for sure. So you have all of those things at your disposal, and and you do your own searches for things as well. uh it's funny, like you can only do so much research unless you're doing an impersonation, which we're not doing in this show. You have to allow for some artistic freedom, and allow for some of your own impulses to come out, as well. So you want to take in as much information as you can, but then it filters through obviously your own interpretation and bias, and the director's interpretation and bias, and so again, like the difference between an impersonation and just you're playing this character in time in this show, that is, we're not doing a documentary, there's a lot of truth. I mean, there's a lot of truth, mostly truth to the storytelling, but some characters are combined and from real life and stuff like that. So anyway, you got to allow yourself for some room to take some liberties, and I think it strikes a nice balance. So
So, for those listening and they want to see you on the tour, how much longer? Where can they find tickets? What have you?
yeah, we are run till September 8th.
Okay.
And we end with 3 weeks at the Kennedy Center, and we definitely don't need to go into all of that. But no, we are here in San Francisco, and we run until beginning of September. And I'm sure the website, parade, whatever. I don't even know what the website's name is, but whatever
I think it's like
whatever
Parade
that main
Broadway or
website.
something.
Yeah, paradebroadway.com. That sounds right. I'm sure you can find. We're on the West Coast for a while now. San Francisco, Vegas, LA, uh, and then Houston, Des Moines, Chicago, and um, DC. And that's it. That'll take us to the end. So come on out and see us wherever you are. It's a really, really beautiful production. It's not a show that travels the country much these days. So I can't promise you'll leave skipping out of the theater, but I think you'll feel that you witnessed some really beautiful, powerful piece of storytelling that resonates. Uh, it's screaming. It resonates so loud right now that it's important to see for sure.
And also more Jason Robert Brown music that you get to sing across the country.
Oh my God, I know, and it's one of he won the Tony for this one. I think it was his first major Broadway score, and he won the Tony and set him on path for the greatness that he is now. So it's really beautiful music. So.
Also, I totally forgot because it just left my brain, but you did Ragtime.
Yeah, yeah, in Sacramento a couple summers
Yeah.
ago.
I just wanted to mention it because I love Ragtime. And if for anybody who's like consistently listened to the podcast, I have talked about for years, I want Ragtime at Lincoln Center with Joshua Henry and Brandon Uranowitz, directed by Bart Scher. It's happening, but not with Bart Scher, but I'm
Oh
so
my
excited.
gosh.
So I just had to mention Ragtime and that you played the father.
Yeah, yeah. That's an all-time great show. I that's very appreciative of you. Wow, that's incredible. Good for you. You manifested it into the world.
Well, I like to think
Um,
this podcast manifests things for people. So with that being said,
what are we manifesting
what
for
are we
me?
manifesting for you, Andrew Samonsky? Another Drama Desk
Let's
nomination.
let's manifest a vacation to Disney World.
Oh
How
my
do we
God.
feel about
You want like we can talk Disney now because you're like, we can wait till
we
we're recording.
that's up to you. I mean, it's about how many days you want this podcast to run for. So,
Again, the
yeah.
Samonsky series. We can do one about South Pacific. We can do one about Disney.
Uh-huh.
We can do you pick the next topic. How about why don't you pick the next topic? What do you want to talk about in this moment?
Oh my gosh. I want to talk about uh yeah, how oh my gosh. I mean, we could talk baseball, not that you want to talk baseball, but
I will
my
say I'm
Los
not a sports person, but I really love going to games, and I know you're a big Dodgers fan.
yeah, and my Los Angeles Dodgers, world champions last year, thank you very much.
Yeah.
We're going to be in LA soon anyway. That's why I thought of it, and my dad and I are going to go see a game on 4th of July. But yeah, it's no, this I don't know whatever you want to talk about. I mean, I'm having honestly, this is so fun to talk to you. Like you make it so easy, and
I'm blushing.
I don't even know how much time has gone by. Like it's just like we've just been chatting, and it's so fun. But yeah, I'm happy to talk about whatever or not. Like I feel like I mean you've
Right.
spanned so much of my life. I'm just so impressed with your research and how much you know. So it's been such a joy. But Disney, I mean,
Well,
listen, I will
Disney,
say this:
yeah, go
we're
ahead.
going. my wife and I and son are going at some point this summer,
Mhm.
and that's all I'll say. And
You do all
we're make
four
we're
parks?
oh yeah, we're going for like a whole week, and we have a lot of friends there, and some who work there, and some who just live there. Kate and I got married there. That's a whole thing that we can talk about. We were not Disney people before we got married there. I know that sounds crazy. That doesn't sound like I'm speaking the truth, but it was. But once we did get married there, kind of on a whim, then we were Disney people after that. It was such a magical week that we're like, gosh, this is incredible. Like Disney's going to take all of our money now for the rest of our lives. But uh
Are you,
but
I think the
yeah.
biggest question, are you Disney Vacation Club members?
No, I've researched this. I maybe we can talk about this off topic just or off afterwards just because I don't think we need I don't quite understand the
Okay.
vacation club. I don't understand the advantages of it, to be honest. That's
Mhm.
what I don't understand.
Okay.
So
I'm not
maybe
either, but
I don't know if you
my
know the
older
answers to that, but
sister, I have a niece who's 6, and my older sister, my mom's side, my parents are divorced, so my mom is separate. Like they're Disney Vacation Club people, and
okay,
there's Disney Vacation Club people. I'm just along for the ride. But I also haven't been
literally.
to Disney in a couple of years, and every year I'm itching to go back. And I always stay at like the cheapest resorts. And somebody said to me once in my family, they're like, why do you stay at the cheap properties? Like, stay at the nice ones. I was like, well, first off, thank you for thinking I can afford the nice properties.
Right.
Secondly, like, I don't spend my time at the hotel. Like, I'm in the parks. I'm going to Disney Springs. I'm doing other things.
Yep, yep, I feel you. When with the 7-year-old,
Mhm.
I will say we were going to stay at one of the more affordable options, but there were some really amazing discounts this summer, and we're staying at one of the nicer ones that I've never stayed at before, which is with a really nice pool, and my son loves a pool, and it's going to be very hot, and so. And it's a lot for a 7-year-old to like go as hard as I usually go at the park. So we're gonna have like some downtime back at the resort and at the pool. And so I'm gonna try to chill out a little bit more this time and like Kate's not like so hardcore as I am either, so it's hopefully it'll be a more relaxing.
Yeah.
Because when we got married there, after the week we were there, we got married and kind of had a honeymoon there because we already had the trip planned just
Mhm.
for fun, and then after we planned the trip, it was like, why don't we just get married while we're there? And so anyway, while we were there for a week, I counted up my steps on my phone, and we had walked 65 miles that week.
Oh my
So.
God.
I mean, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
great because then you can just eat as many Mickey bars as you want and it just
Yeah.
melts off of you.
I think the last time I was there, I counted how many steps I did like every day, and it was over 20,000 steps.
Oh yeah. No, you can easily do 10 miles a day there.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
wild.
for sure.
So
I mean, to tie Disney back, it has kind of been with you since the beginning of your career, though, if you think about it.
yeah, on the record for
Yeah,
sure.
on the record, and then also Hunchback. And you're on the
hmm
cast recording of Hunchback. So even though it didn't, was there a thought that it was going to transfer to Broadway?
Oh, it's a very controversial subject. I think a lot of us in the cast assumed it was going to Broadway. For
Mhm.
the record, Disney publicly always said that they were just producing it to eventually license it.
Mhm.
And they never strayed from that. And that is what they did. I think we were all disappointed that it didn't go to Broadway, but that is what Disney did. And they'd said that with Newsies, but Newsies did end up going to Broadway, so we thought it was going to be like another like fooled you, we're actually bringing it to Broadway, but they didn't. And that's okay. But another great album, and yeah, and another like little Disney check, which is fun, for Kate and I to have that, and maybe your audience members will see us put together like a fun Disney concert or something someday to do. Maybe who knows? Maybe it's at a concert hall or at the parks or on a cruise ship. Who knows?
Well, they do
It's just
have,
fun.
across America in at
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure. I'm trying to think like what movie to stage adaptation, like Disney movie, would you want to be in and what part?
Oh gosh. Um, well, I'm a little older now,
Listen, that's
and
makeup. It's fine.
I will say, I'll just say it this way: one of my favorite movies, a surprise sleeper hit for me um was Saving Mr. Banks, and I love that movie. And and there was that moment in that movie where Emma Thompson is talking to Walt Disney, and they're talking about the show and what Mary Poppins going to do and blah 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 and this and that, and she goes like, "Oh, like you think it's about Mary Poppins? Like it's about the father. That the whole show is about the father." And it really touches me, and so I and of course it's about, not of course, but like you realize, oh, this is about the father's transformation in that show. And the movie, like, it's about Julie Andrews and Dick Van Dyke and everything. But I just have a special attachment now to that property, thinking of it in that way, and his relationship with his children and being a father now. So I love thinking about that from time to time, and not that it's a role I have to play, but it is, but it is a role I think about from time to time. So
Well, in your Disney concerts with Kate, maybe
yeah,
can
I
use
had
that.
did we didn't actually put that subject in our little show we made. Maybe I'll that's thank you for that. I'll have to
Oh,
go
of
back
course.
and maybe add something there.
I'm also, not just a manifester. I just give people ideas for stuff as well.
Yeah. Now you can ask me for 10% of
Oh no, I was literally going to ask you, like, were you going to say to him, if you win this Emmy Award, are you going to thank me in your acceptance speech?
right. Well, yeah, I clearly just more greedy for the money, apparently.
Listen, you were South Pacific the whole time, and then you used all that money to go to Greece.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, that was the show that helped me establish an apartment. Thank goodness that allowed me to live in New York for quite some time. So always
are you
grateful to
still
that show.
are you still based in Salt Lake?
We are currently, yeah, we are. Just because our kids in school there, and these days you just don't, even our agents say you don't need to be in LA or New York. I mean, everything just starts. All auditions start on tape, and then if it's something eventually that you want to come
Mhm.
in for, you just come in. And so it's the world's changed that way too. So I'm not sure Salt Lake is our forever city, but we'll see. We have some ideas in the works of where we're going to end up, but yeah, right now we're still in beautiful Salt Lake in the mountains, and it's lovely.
Yeah, it's great. So aside from your summer adventure in Disney and you like geeking out in Star Wars land, which I know because you're also a big Star Wars fan.
Yes,
What
yes.
was this total side note, but like your first time ever seeing the Millennium Falcon? What was your reaction? Did you cry?
At Galaxy's Edge,
Yeah.
I'll tell you exactly what happened.
Okay.
I went. It was a Disney land,
Hmm.
and Luke was 5, and I think I had started showing him the movie at 5, the
Mhm.
original Star Wars Episode 4. And I knew we were going to Disneyland. Finally, I mean, it'd already been open for years, and I still hadn't seen it yet. I couldn't believe it. And so I'm preparing myself, and I'm holding Luke in my arms, and you can come and see it from above. There's kind of this upper platform where some restaurants are, and you can approach it that way, looking down on it. And I go, and I holding Luke, and just me and him, and I go up to the edge, and it comes into view, and I go, holy shit, would you look at that? And Luke goes, holy shit. And immediately go, hey, listen to what Luke said. I'm so proud of my sons, like saying holy shit about the Millennium Falcon, just like I did. Um, Falcon or Falcon? I think it's said both ways in the movies. But yeah, I mean, I was. I then wrote Ride of the Resistance by myself because Luke couldn't write it and Kate sat with Luke, and I definitely had tears in my eyes by the end of it. So
Did you do Smuggler's Run?
I did, which is fun, but like that Rise of the Resistance is second to none. It's that's a spectacular experience. Yeah.
So, as I was saying, aside from your like big Disney trip, do you know what your plan is like once tour ends for Parade? What's next? Or is it kind of like going to take another break, see what happens, audition? Do you have anything lined up yet? And if you do,
I
you don't have to say what it is.
Yeah, I do. I unfortunately can't really officially say it yet. But yeah, I have a show to do after the tour ends in the fall. I'm also teaching I'll be teaching some classes at the University of Utah, continuing to teach classes and which I've really enjoyed. I've loved teaching so much, as I've gotten older. It just feels so natural to give back, which is not always clear as a performer. I mean, unfortunately, you have to be pretty self-focused as a performer when you are your product and all that stuff. And that's not always a comfortable place to be, and that ego and self-centeredness. It's not my favorite, but it's kind of part of it in a sense. And I've just noticed as I've gotten older and that the less I make it about me, the more I'm fulfilled, and teaching has been a really wonderful way to do that. And so I'm very interested in continuing that and kind of giving back to the next generation of artists. So we'll see where that takes us. But I'm excited about what's to come and where we end up and what we're doing. So we're very lucky and but yeah, it's next this next year has definitely got some things going on. So that's nice because it's always like as the show, as your current gig is wrapping up, you're always like, oh, what's gonna happen next? And so to have a few little things going on is helps settle the nerves at least a little bit.
Yeah. What is, in your teaching these students, what's the biggest takeaway you hope they get from learning from you?
I think the biggest one that took me a long time to trust and figure out was to really trust your own experience, to bring yourself fully to the character, to the work you're doing. For so long, I was trying to figure out what the casting director wanted, what they wanted, like trying to be someone I'm not in a sense, or trying to be cooler than I was, or be more this than I really felt I was. And and when I really started working was when I really trusted to just bring more of myself to it and my vulnerabilities and my flaws, my shames, my awkwardness and my strengths and my courage and all the virtues and I wouldn't say weaknesses, just like what we might see as non-virtues in the arts are massive strengths because what we're doing is we're storytelling, we're connecting with the audience for an audience member to look up at that stage and go, oh, I felt that way too. And they can't relate unless you're willing to open up yourself fully. People want to not feel alone. I think they go to the theater to see their story, to know that we're connected, to know they're not alone in their own struggles and fears and shames and successes and joys. And so it takes the artist to have the courage to reveal themselves and get uncomfortable and share those parts of ourselves that we're not always really proud of, but are huge assets as an artist and an actor. So, and it's hard, when you're that age in your early 20s or whatever, or late teens, even in college, to like have the courage to reveal those things. And and feel safe. Like it's tricky, but you've I out of it I found it very empowering, honestly, because you then get the reaction to like, oh, thank you for sharing that. I needed to hear that, or that really made me think I can do that, or like, oh, I'm not alone with this. I mean, that's why we do this. And so to encourage them to trust to trust themselves, that they don't have to be more than they are, and to understand that what's in there is a lot more than they think that they have too. You know, I like being in the shower and acting as crazy and weird as we would, like, oh, I would never do this on stage. Well, like, well, why not? I bet it's I bet it's wildly entertaining, and so it's like things like that, that you try to get kids to, or kids, not kids, but like the younger artists, to just get out of their heads and into themselves, and and trust that what we're doing is important too, because it can also feel like you can also like play down, oh, I'm just an actor or whatever. There's a million of us. Like, no, what we do is important. It's really important. It's where people want to spend their free time. My dad always says this. He's like, he has a job, like he's a lawyer, but like he goes to the theater to enjoy himself, and we get to be those people that bring that enjoyment or thought-provoking experiences to others. Wow, I just really went on and on, but I do feel, passionately about what we do, and think it's really important, and hopefully I know that the, next generation will continue it. So, yeah.
Do you have any top going theater experiences?
Top going theater experiences, like in my life or like recently?
Both?
Yeah.
Well, recently
Uh,
it's a part of your life, so it kind of works out in that way.
right, right, right. Well, I can't keep saying how old I am. What was the ones that
Listen,
like really?
I've been seeing shows for over 30 years. So
Yeah,
there you
me
go.
too,
Yeah.
or more.
First
Um,
show I was five, if that makes you feel any better.
I mean, I'll say the one that's my mom was a flight attendant, and we got to fly, you know, for free back in the day, and they took me to London, and we saw three shows, and they took me when I think I was 12, and we
Mhm.
went and saw Cats.
Oh.
And I was mesmerized. I mean, the cats were like in the audience. They were tapping me on the shoulder and like meowing in my face. And, and that music, whatever you want to think of cats, like that music is great, I think. And as a 12-year-old kid watching Cats in London, and the stage rotated, and I was on part of the stage that rotated with it. And it was just one of those moments, I'll remember forever, and it hooks you into the theater. You always have that like show that like kind of hooks you into the theater, is like magical, and that certainly was one. Mine was, for better or for worse, it was Cats, and I listened to that double cassette all the time. So, um, yeah, but as I got older, gosh, trying to think, what were the ones that really hooked me? I mean, there's just ones that speak to you. Like, for whatever reason, You're in Town was just one of them. I love shows that can just make you feel good. That was another just feel good show. Um, you know, I don't know. I mean, my answer is gonna be so boring, but like, it was Hamilton was one. It really was. I mean, for a show to be so hyped. I didn't, it took me like 2 years to finally see that show. And there was so much hype and expectations behind that show. And then to go and see it and it exceed my expectations. I don't know how a show does that, but it did. So, um, it was, I saw Original Rent, all of those. Like, I'm such a cliche answers, but that's why cliches are cliches, So, um, yeah, yeah, those are some of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what about recent? Because you were saying in my lifetime or recent, so I'm curious. I mean, because I have recent ones that I'm still like obsessing over in my head. What about for you? Anything recent?
Yeah. Um, you know, when you're working, you don't get to see, I haven't gotten to see anything super recent just because of being on tour. But I saw maybe Happy Ending, like we said, when I was in New York, and that really stuck with me. Um, I don't, it's just such a unique way that Michael t had did the storytelling in that. Um, a show about robots that can make
Mhm.
you feel something, I think is says something about the show. Um, I see theater in Utah, the Pioneer Theater. We see stuff there, and it's excellent. We just saw a play called A Case for the Existence of God, a two-person play, and it was wonderful. And I guess that's what's what's heartening to hear or to experience is like even in Salt Lake City, I can see first-rate theater that for people to see, and these two actors were unreal, and it was a beautiful play. Um, yeah, and you remember it. It sticks with you, and you talk about it, and so yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
So, I mean, we talked a little bit earlier about dream roles or projects, and you always say like new works, but is there anything, maybe like a revival you would want to do, or maybe something you would want to do with Kate?
Yeah, the answer, well, I always say this to Kate. I don't know when we'll do it. I do hope we do it someday. I just think it would be so fun to do Sweeney Todd with her. I think she would be an incredible Mrs. Lovett, and I think and Sweeney is like one of my all-time favorite musicals, and I think it would be super fun to play that part. I know we just had a revival of that. I was almost hoping there would be a tour of that. I think I asked my agents like, find out when that tour is going out, and they asked, and there's like, there's no tour going out of that. So we'll have to wait to do that somewhere else. But
Listen, there's plenty of regional. You said there's really great theater in Utah. I
oh
mean,
yeah.
I'm sure the Muni will bring it back, and you've worked at the Muni before.
Hmm.
So listen, we're putting it out there into the world.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, it'll happen. And that's a nice one where like you're not going to age out of those roles, you know? So that's I got to find the roles that I'm not going to age out of anymore. And those are harder to find these days. So, um yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I've never done Les Mis, and I think I would like to do Les Mis at some point. I think I always had a hard time with Javert, but as I've gotten older, I think I've understood Javert a little more. I've always thought Jean Valjean was obviously a great role too, but Javert would be interesting to play too. There's a very Hugh Dorsey parallel between Javert and Hugh Dorsey, and so having now played Hugh Dorsey, I think it would be. I think I have a little more understanding of what Javert would be like, and it would be interesting to play.
Do you
So,
think it's a little meta that you're playing a lawyer and your dad is a lawyer?
oh, for sure,
Yeah.
he's coming. He's going to see the show here in a week, so that'll be fun. Um,
Hoping
no,
he's
and
like, I'm not like that as a lawyer. Like, I'm not an asshole.
no, he's actually a very ethical lawyer. He was a very good lawyer actually, but yeah, and 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 it's a musical, and it's a drama, and of course it's like, well, I don't know, it's funny because there's a lot of ridiculousness going on in the world right now, and with certain characters and politics, and not to get into it, it's just you realize like my dad is not a ridiculous person, and so I don't think he's gonna be like, I think he'll enjoy the show very much, but you realize like, oh, there are a lot of ridiculous people in the world, and so playing Hugh Dorsey, the more ridiculous he becomes, it's not like the less truthful he becomes, almost the more the more eerily truthful it becomes. So that's been interesting. So But yeah, I asked him some legal questions, and it'll be fun for him to see it, and it's a true story. So I mean, a lot of this ridiculousness that happened in the courtroom actually happened. So um, anyway, I'll be interested to hear his reaction to it.
Ready for some Inside the Actor Studio questions?
Yes, this is great.
What is your favorite word?
Oh, I it was the first one that came into my mind, and it was fuck. It just was.
Right.
It's
What
the
is,
most interchangeable word. Uh, but I do like the word uh wanderlust. I think that's a good word.
I don't hear it that
Um,
often.
yeah, I really like that word. I'm a big travel junkie, so I just love the idea of that word. So that's another good one.
What is your least favorite word?
I think my I think my least favorite word is, oh, that's a good one. Probably probably something like that has to do with like no, like when no is said in a snide way, like when someone is like so unwilling to be helpful and you get that no, no, like not gonna help you, and you're just like, "Ugh, really?" That always that's when my pet peeve really comes out of just
And that's when you say fuck and then you add you to the end of it.
right, yeah. So yeah, no, I know that's such a generic word, but like when it's said the right way, the wrong way, it's disgusting. Yeah.
Right. What turns you on?
What turns me on? I think intelligence turns me on, and what's attached to that, and I've heard this said, the greatest the the quickest way to, how do you say it? The quickest way to revealing someone's intelligence is humor. And I think that's true. Like a funny person is an intelligent person. And so, and if I want to bring this back to like my life and my wife, like my wife is very funny, and I think it's what kind of drew me to her initially, and I think it's what just keeps, obviously what keeps things going too, is the humor, being able to laugh about things. But there's something really smart about being funny too, which I really appreciate. So
What turns you off?
what turns me off is I was gonna say laziness, but it's not laziness. It's more apathy. It's like the unwillingness to be of use, like when, like it's like with the no, like not being helpful. Um, yeah, like people who just don't care, and in that like negative way. I mean, there are times to like let go, but that's different from just not wanting to be like a part of like the global community. So being destructive rather than constructive. So
I feel like I know the answer to this next question, but I'm going to ask it. What is
oh,
your favorite curse word?
yeah, well, yeah, that's an easy one. I mean, there's so many ways to use that, like not to say them all, but like,
You can. It's fine.
I,
Like it's
I always
fine.
like I always like the term fuckhole. Like there's just something really like simple and like stark about that term that I don't know. Just it sounds like it, like you want it to feel somehow. So take that for what you will, America.
or the world. I have people who listen other places.
Yes,
Yeah.
please don't, sorry to limit
No,
the
actually,
audience
just
range of
American
this.
appreciate that. Everybody else can. No, I'm just joking. What sound or noise do you love?
What sound or noise do I love? I love the sound of my son's breathing when he's asleep. Like that's when you just lay next to him and he's asleep and he's just breathing really sweetly, or even if he's snoring, it's so cute and he's just so peaceful. Um, yeah, that's wonderful.
What sound or noise do you hate?
When uh well, I wouldn't say I hate it, but on the flip side, when I ask my son to do something and he goes, it's this sound every single time. Uh, uh. Hey, Luke, go eat your come eat your dinner. Luke, go put your shoes on. Oh my God, I must hear it like 50 times a day.
Gonna haunt your dreams now. Okay. What profession other than yours would you like to attempt?
I always thought it would be fun to be a firefighter. Um, I like the camaraderie of like the fire, the fire people, the fire station, and I think there's something really interesting helping others, and it's different every day, so I always thought that would be fun. God, there's so many things like being a doctor. I almost went to law school actually at one point. I think being a teacher is probably the most valuable occupation that we have. So and I always think it's so useful to look in every direction, like people who are so focused, like there's something interesting about that, but I think the more curious you are about a diverse range of topics is really lovely too. Excuse me. I
Are you good? Do you need a moment?
think so. No, I
Okay.
think I'm okay. Yeah.
Is that tickle? You're feeling the tickle now?
I got the tickle. I got to call out if
Tickle?
we're going to talk for another 4 hours.
Again, the Samonsky series. What profession would you not like to do?
Um, man, I would not like to be a telemarketer or with one of these people who has a job that for whatever reason is not their fault, that this is the job they have, and they just get so much shit from people that they should not be getting, like if someone's mad at this company and they call customer service and they're screaming at someone, I just always feel bad for the customer service people. I'm just like, it's not their fault, man. Like they don't make the rules of this company, and I know that happens all the time, and I feel terrible for them, and I just think what a thankless job to have to do, and God bless them for doing it. So,
Okay. And finally, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Woo. um, oh, I'm so sorry. He would say, "Your mother is right this way." I just lost her in October, and she was the best. She was the sweetest, nicest person you ever meet, and I hope that's what happens. I'm not a man of many faiths, but it's sure. I hold out hope that maybe what you're saying is true. So that would be nice.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a lovely place to come to a nice little end. Do you have
Yeah.
for those listening, if they want to follow you or get in touch with you, well, maybe not get in touch with you, but just, follow you on the socials? Because I know, isn't there a controversy where it's like a Simonsky somewhere and then Simonsky somewhere else?
I know. I found this. I think it's a distant relative of mine. I have
Have you,
DM'd this person.
they've
She
not
hasn't.
reached back out?
What's that?
They have not reached back out to you?
No, they have no posts, so you can't comment on any of their posts. they I DM'd them, I heard back nothing, but I wanted to like line up my Twitter at the time with with my Instagram and whatever. It just I couldn't do it. And so I'm A Samonsky on Instagram, and I just created a TikTok account. I think it is Samonsky Studio. Uh, so for like maybe some teaching plans that I have. So if you want to start following my brand new TikTok, Samonsky Studio, I think eventually soon I will start put throwing some stuff up there, but Instagram's probably the best way to find me.
I mean, I feel like I smell another Instagram account for Samonsky Studio, right?
I know.
Yeah, both.
Can't you you can change your account name, right? And it changes it everywhere, I think in Instagram,
You
right?
are asking the wrong person.
I think that's true.
I only have an Instagram account for my podcast. So, I mean, I have
Yeah,
my personal and then the podcast Instagram, but there's too many things. I refuse to get TikTok. Everything ends up on Instagram anyway.
but it's here. It's
Yeah.
here to stay, and
Oh,
we can't resist
well, my
the
two best
future.
friends are like, TikTok, TikTok. And it's like, it's on Instagram. Like people, it's the same thing. So, yeah, I
Fair
get it.
enough.
Yeah.
I feel you. I've resisted it for a long time, but it's here to stay, and I think you just gotta accept the truth of it. So
I don't know. I feel like you and Kate can do some fun stuff on TikTok though.
I keep telling her I think she'd be amazing on it, but
Yeah.
she's she resists as well. But she's got a good following on there, of course, because of her TV show. So we'll see. We'll see. We've talked about it. Maybe stay tuned. We might have some fun ideas.
Especially when you're going to do your Disney concert, put some
Yeah.
there. Maybe you
Yeah.
guys should be Mamma Mia together. I don't know why I keep going back to that.
I think Mama Mia will be a blast.
Yeah,
I'm not the strongest dancer. I move very
I
well,
don't
so
think,
you just gotta give me a minute. I'll learn the choreography. Just give me a minute, okay?
well, the dad tracks, I don't think are heavily, I mean, you have to do like the arm
That
thing and the,
but that mega mix at the end, you gotta learn
oh,
that mega
that's
mix.
Megamix. The men are literally just,
Step touching. I can do a
yeah,
step touch.
that's all it is. I'm trying to think back to the Megamix. Yeah, it's like step touching. It's not, I mean, you're
All
going to be
right.
in the platforms and like the tight ab outfit.
I appreciate your confidence in me, so thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if I can attempt to do a Megamix anywhere, anybody can. Because I'm not as strong. If I cannot do a choreographed dance, I have had so many people try to teach me how to do a time step, like even 5-year-olds, and it's just not a thing.
Well, then I thank you. If you believe in me, then I'll start believing in myself.
Sure. And I'll try and think of other roles for you other than like the dads in Mamma Mia.
Yeah, well,
Mhm.
you gotta start somewhere,
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So before we go, anything else you want to put out there? Problems, concerns, life advice, questions, things people should know aside from going to see you in Parade and just going to see Parade because it's such a fabulous show. People should just see it.
Um, yeah, all of the above, all of what you said.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm trying to. we're talking, in the vein of social media. I am trying to, in the vein of social media, and in the vein of teaching
Mhm.
and wanting to give back. I think I would just say, like, if any of your listeners, like, I just encourage people to reach out. Whether they have questions, or maybe it's an aspiring performer or actor who wants some advice, or perhaps even coaching. Not to sell anything, just to say, like, I'd love to, like, be in touch with people who are in this business and growing and learning, and hopefully I can be a voice for that. And I want to start embracing that idea more, and put that out into the universe, manifest that.
Do
So
it.
yeah.
Well, I was going to say, because you were saying is maybe would you do private coaching? And then you just said if anybody wants to do that. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
that's the idea. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to launch something in that, I think, soon too. So to kind of get ahead of that, to just say that that's coming, and if people want to reach out, please do. So
Well, you can stay on when we're done recording. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm so happy we finally got to do this and chat. And
you are amazing. You are just so easy, so lovely. Just I mean, I'm sure actors love talking about themselves, but it's just you make it really lovely and easy and fun and so kudos to you. And it's just been a real pleasure being here. So
thank you. Well, thanks for listening and thank you for the compliment. All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Bye, everyone.